Chapter 795. Borrowing power to hurt people, whose power to borrow. Borrowing the power of the Qin family, borrowing the power of the Xia family, borrowing the power of all the people that could be borrowed. No matter the outcome of the negotiation between the Fang Yen and the Qin family, Fang Yen had to show that our negotiation went smoothly. The Qin family is on our side, don't bully me, or my big brother will trample you to death at any moment. Besides, Fang Yen was now living in the private villa of the Qin family's eldest daughter, Qin Etian. With Qin Etian's high reputation and influence in Beijing, this matter had probably fallen into the eyes of people with ulterior motives on the first day Fang Yen arrived in Beijing. It was unknown whether it was intentional or not, but this matter itself could give people unlimited imagination. If it was intentional, then it proved that Qin Etian treated Fang Yen with good intentions. She did not hesitate to sacrifice her reputation in order to create momentum and prestige for Fang Yen in the outside world. There was another possibility. Perhaps Qin Etian had already had a premonition that Fang Yan's request for help would fail before Fang Yen set foot on the land of Yanjing, so he had placed such a chess piece in advance. At that time, Fang Yen had asked Muing to send him to the hotel, saying that it was very inconvenient to stay here. At that time, Muing had said, "Miss doesn't care, what do you have to care about?" Thinking about it carefully, it was a deep feeling. Fang Yen followed Xianxia to the Xia family. He didn't even drink a cup of tea from the Xia family. But didn't even occupy a corner of the Xia family's chair, but Fang Yen got a lot of harvest. Old Master Xia was indeed a smart person. With just a few words, he made Fang Yen see the moon through the dark clouds. Borrowing power, borrowing the power of the world. In a situation where the Qin family was unwilling to go all out to fight against such a giant, this was the best and only choice. If all the negotiations were like this, the world would be too harmonious. Xianxia drove the car out of the military courtyard and sighed. "I grew up in such a family, and only now do I slowly come back to it. You grew up in Swallow Dock, but your reaction speed is dozens of times faster than mine. What did you eat to grow up? How can there be such a big gap between people?" Xia Chen had an extraordinary background and had been in the entertainment industry for many years. He was quite satisfied with his IQ and EQ. However, he realized that he was still far inferior to Fang Yen. "I'm just thinking a little more." With a smile on his face, Fang Yen said, "Too many things happened to my family when I was young, so my mind is more sensitive. After I grew up, I was often bullied by a girl. I couldn't beat her, so I always wanted to take revenge. I used all kinds of methods." "That's not a reason," Summer said. "Taking revenge on a girl and what you're doing now are two completely different concepts. And that girl is the girl you like." "How did you know?" Fang Yen asked in surprise. "When you talk about her, your eyes narrow, and you can't hide the smile on your face." Xia Chen pretended to be angry and said, "Please, I'm also a woman, okay? Showing such a strong love for another woman in front of a woman will make people jealous, okay? If I can't hold the steering wheel because I'm angry, it'll be 2 lives in a car. It's going to be on the headlines tomorrow." Fang Yen said with a smile. "How about I leave some more clues and lead this car accident to the Jiang family? Do you think they'll be in trouble? Whoever provokes you is unlucky." Xianxia Kiki giggled. Her laughter was as pleasant to the ear as her singing voice. "However, I don't want to die with you. I don't want to die now. I want to do a lot of things. If you don't die, I won't die either. It's too lonely to walk the Yellow Springs Road alone." Fang Yen said with a smile. "But I really have to thank you for today. It's not like I did anything." Xiaji curled his lips, looking as cute as a young girl. "It's all because of you and our family's old man. I haven't even had the time to say a good word for you, and the two of you have already come to an agreement. I'm standing there like an idiot. You're still staying in the Qin family's young Mrs. mansion at night? You know about this too?" Fang Yen smiled bitterly. "Who doesn't know? The entire Maple Leaf Club is talking about this. Before your plane even landed at Beijing Airport, countless pairs of eyes were staring at it. Otherwise, how would I know that you came to Beijing if you didn't call me? How would I know that you, Yi Fengxing, Li Xiaotian, and the others were gathering at the Garden Hotel? Fang Yen looked out the window into the dark world. He thought to himself, the Jiang family should know about this too, right? How would they react at this moment? Kiss and Yuan Lin miss you very much. Xia Ji suddenly said. They're very busy right now, very busy. They have a lot of jobs every day. I've already asked the company to shorten their schedule, but there are still a lot of things to do. Perhaps this is what we mean when we say that people in the martial arts world are not good. However, as long as we're together, they'll always mention you. They'll always say how Mr. Fang is. Fang Yen, you should go see them when you have time. I will. Fang Yen nodded. Even if I'm not here, I'm still silently watching them from behind, cheering them on and telling them to work hard. I'll pass it on. The car drove up the mountain road, and Xia slowed it down again. At this time, she was no longer talking to Fang Yen. Instead, she was focused on the road ahead. It wasn't until they reached the entrance of Qin Yitian's villa that Xia let out a sigh of relief. She looked at Fang Yen and said with a smile, I've finally delivered you safely. Fang Yen raised her eyebrows and said, Are you all right alone? No problem. Xia said, I'll pay attention to some things. Fang Yen thought for a moment, then said, I'm worried. I'll send you off. You send me off, and I'll send you off again. Are you still going to sleep tonight? If Miss Qin suspects that we have some secret relationship, wouldn't she hate me to death? Fang Yen smiled and said, How can I let a girl drive alone on the mountain road? You drive me to the entrance of your neighborhood, and then I drive your car back. You don't just have this car, do you? Yes, gentlemen. Thank you for your hard work, miss. The two looked at each other and laughed. This kind of knowledgeable friend relationship was really good, free and easy, but also concerned about each other. Fang Yen did not expect Yi Daoling to send Ruan Jing to pick him up. Based on Fang Yan's understanding of Yi Daoling, this man was someone who would not release an eagle until he saw a rabbit. If there were no attractive enough benefits, he would not easily make any decision. Besides, he was currently at war with the general family. With his sensitive position, he should not have contacted him. However, Ruan Jing came to his door early in the morning. Along the way, Fang Yen kept interrogating Ruan Jing. Ruan Jing just laughed along with him, not telling him why Yi Daoling wanted to see Fang Yen. Forget it, I won't force you. Anyway, we'll know in a while. Fang Yen waved his hand and said, It's useless even if you force me. Ruan Jing said with a wry smile. We drank together last night and received a call from the boss in the middle of the night. He asked me to pick you up this morning. He said that he wanted to treat you to Yanjing's authentic fried liver. Please, do you really like to eat that thing? I accompanied the boss to eat twice, and every time I felt like vomiting. I think it's okay. Fang Yen said with a smile. Even if I eat with your boss, I'm afraid it won't taste anything. That's true. Anyway, I don't want to eat with the boss. If the boss asks later, I'll say that I've eaten. When they arrived at the small courtyard that Fang Yen came to last time, Yi Daoling was eating breakfast at home. Yezi hadn't gone to school yet. When she saw Fang Yen coming over, she waved at him and said, Come quickly, my dad specially left a bowl for you. It's still hot in the pot. I'll get someone to bring it to you. As he spoke, a servant brought over a large bowl of steaming hot fried liver. Yi Daoling glanced at Ruan Jing and said, You sit down and eat something together. You went out early in the morning, so you probably haven't eaten anything. Ruan Jing didn't want to smell the fried liver, but he had to obey the boss's orders. He just sat far away and scooped a bowl of millet porridge for himself. He picked a steamed bun and quickly ate it. While Fang Yen was eating the fried liver, Yi Daoling put down the newspaper in his hand and looked at Fang Yen and asked, If I didn't let Ruan Jing pick you up, you wouldn't have come to see me, right? Fang Yen nodded and said, Yes. Yi Daoling stared and said, Am I that unpopular with you? That's not it. Fang Yen waved his hand and said, I'm just afraid of causing trouble for you. Trouble? Hee, it's not like you don't know about the matter between me and the Jiang family. They clearly want to get rid of me. Your identity is sensitive, so why should I burn the flames of war on you? If I shamelessly came to your door, you definitely wouldn't be happy, right? Yi Daoling laughed out loud. He pointed at Fang Yen and said, You You are really likable and annoying. Fang Yen wiped his mouth with a tissue and said, "It's just that I speak too straightforwardly. This is one of my few shortcomings, and I don't want to change it. A person who is too perfect will be envied by others." Yezi giggled and said, "Fang Yen, don't you have any shame?" "I don't want it," Fang Yen said. "I'm going to lose my life. What's the use of shame? Yezi, eat less, you'll get fat." Chapter 796. For women, being fat was their spent foundation, scattered eyelashes, and a pimple on the tip of their nose. This was the most difficult thing to accept and tolerate. Fang Yen called her fat, in front of her father and Ruan Jing, which made Yezi almost melt the spoon in her hand. Of course, Fang Yen actually said, "Be careful not to get fat," but Yezi had automatically ignored the words, "Be careful not to get fat." "You think I'm fat?" Yezi's eyes were round, and she looked at Fang Yen angrily. "I didn't say you're fat." Fang Yen looked at Yezi doubtfully and said, "I mean eat less, be careful not to get fat." "Why should I eat less? Do you think I'm fat now?" "I don't mean that. I'm worried about the future, that's what you mean. You think I'm fat. Otherwise, why would you ask me to eat less? How am I fat? I'm less than 100 pounds, okay? You're the fat one." "Umph, my figure is so good, and you dare to think I'm fat. Do you have any taste? I think gentleness is beautiful." My taste is still good, right?" Fang Yen said with a smile. "It's fine if it's this matter. If I want to eat, I'll eat. Why do you care?" Although Yezi said so, she didn't dare to dig the millet porridge in the bowl with the spoon in her hand. She put down the half piece of mung bean cake in her hand and stared at Fang Yen fiercely. She said, "You big fatso." Fang Yen didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He looked at Ruan Jing and said, "You judge, did I say she's fat?" Ruan Jing looked up at Fang Yen blankly and said, "What were you talking about? I was busy eating and didn't hear it clearly." "Okay." Yi Daoling waved his hand, looked at his baby daughter and said, "Yezi, are you going to school?" "No, I'm not in the mood." Yezi's eyes were still staring at Fang Yen. She said, "I'm going to practice. Lose weight." "Fang Yen didn't say you were fat." Yi Daoling said to uphold justice. "He did. He just said it clearly, but you still favor him." Yi Zi was also dissatisfied with her father. "He thinks your daughter is ugly, but you still speak up for him. Are you really my father or not?" In the eyes of women, fat was ugly. This had already risen to the level of a personal attack by Fang Yen. All right. Yi Daoling raised his hand in surrender. "I'll give Fang Yen a good scolding later. Hurry up and go to school." Yezi looked at Fang Yen and said, "I won't go. I want to stay and see how you criticize him." Yi Daoling was helpless. He looked at Fang Yen and said, "You're usually quite good at talking. What's wrong with you today? Can you say that girls are fat?" "I didn't say that." Fang Yen felt even more wronged. "I'm just giving you a friendly reminder. Isn't scolding people with good intentions? Isn't it illegal to kill someone with good intentions?" Yi retorted. Yi Daoling looked at Fang Yen and asked, "How's your talk with the Qin family?" "It's pretty good." Fang Yen said with a smile, "They value me quite a bit." "Is it the Qin family that values you, or the Qin family's eldest daughter, Qin Yitian, that values you?" Yi Daoling squinted his eyes and smiled as he asked, "Is there a difference?" Yi Daoling pointed at Fang Yen with his finger and said, "You brat, you don't even say a word of truth in front of third uncle." Fang Yen laughed and said, "My grandfather asked me this question, and this is the only answer I have. Also, they really treat me very well." Yi Daoling looked at Fang Yen with burning eyes and asked, "Did they put forward any conditions?" "Li Xinyan is a very powerful woman. She's the smartest woman I've ever seen. People like her can't be casually dismissed. She will definitely put forward all kinds of conditions to you. It's said that the Jiang family is prepared to give her the entire Chao Yen. What can you give her?" "I can give her loyalty and a better future for Chao Yen," Fang Yen said with a smile. "She's a smart woman. She should know how to choose." "Fang Yen, This war came too early. Yi Daoling sighed softly. Obviously, he didn't think that Fang Yen and his companions had any chance of winning against a century-old clan like the Jiang family. Then, why did you invite me to eat fried liver? Fang Yen put down his chopsticks and wiped his mouth with a napkin. We all came from Swallow Dock. What's wrong with me inviting you to a meal? Does the people outside still have an opinion on this matter? Many people like you are willing to invite me to a meal. The Jiang family will reevaluate my value and power. They will think about what they can gain by fighting someone like me. Or rather, what they will lose. If the loss is greater than the value of the gain, I'm sure they will reconsider this matter. Yi Daoling nodded and said, I don't have any power, but I can ride the sword. The way to borrow power is very important. You should grasp it well. Many people are like me. They are willing to invite you to a meal, but they are also like me. They don't want to mess with you. I understand. Fang Yen looked like he had learned something and said, I'm already very grateful. Have you seen, sir? No. Fang Yen said. You should see, sir. Yi Daoling said. Fang Yen thought for a moment and nodded. I was negligent. It's not too late. After breakfast, Yi Daoling had to go to work. He asked Yi Zi if she wanted to go to school. He could give her a ride. Yi Zi shook her head. She wouldn't be in a good mood today. It would be a waste of time to go to school. Yi Daoling smiled and told Ruan Jing to accompany Fang Yen. He took his driver to work. Yi Daoling left and there was no need for Fang Yen to stay. When he was about to get up and leave, Yi Zi shouted, Fang Yen. Fang Yen was shocked. He thought that this little girl wouldn't be looking for trouble, right? He looked at Yi Zi apologetically and said, I really didn't say you were fat, nor did I think you were ugly. I always thought that you and your sister are the most beautiful pair of twins in Swallow Dock. Even in the entire Yanjing, you can be ranked in the top 3. My sister and I are in the top 3. Who is in the top 3? Yi Zi blinked and asked. Fang Yen thought about it and said, Then give it to Qin Yitian? Yi Zi said angrily. Although she is indeed very beautiful, I must stand on my sister's side. Fang Yen, why do you have to live in Qin Yitian's villa? Because I can't live there. Fang Yen said with a smile. Yi Zi thought about it and said with a red face, Why don't you come to my house? Seeing that Fang Yen didn't speak, Yi Zi stamped her feet angrily and said, It's not like you haven't lived there before. How about next time? I'm going back to Huaqing. Fang Yen said. Yi Zi was still a little unhappy and said, Then it's a deal. Next time you come to my house. You are not allowed to live in Qin Yitian's house. My sister is not here. I have to help her look after you. Fang Yen smiled bitterly and said, Why are you looking at me? You should go to school quickly. Sitting in the car on the way back, Ruan Jing suddenly asked, Fang Yen, do you like Yi Zi? Fang Yen was stunned and said, What are you thinking? I have nothing to do with Yi Zi. No, she is Yi Gentle's sister. That's our relationship. I feel that she likes you. Ruan Jing said. Fang Yen sneered and said, You don't even dare to fall in love. How can you say, I feel? Fang Yen first went home to visit his grandfather and mother. Seeing Fang Yen back, his mother was very happy and went out with a small basket. She said that she would go to the back mountain to pick some fruits and vegetables and cook something delicious for Fang Yen in the evening. Fang Hui's spirit was better than the last time Fang Yen came back, and his eyes were much brighter. After Lu Wan went out with the basket, Fang Hui waved to Fang Yen and said, Fang Yen, come to the ancestral hall with me. Okay, Grandpa. Fang Yen nodded and pushed Fang Hui's wheelchair to the ancestral hall. Because there were not many people in the Fang family, the ancestral hall was quite quiet. After Fang Yen went in, he cleaned the dust on the altar table and lit the incense in front of the ancestral tablets of the Fang family. Then he knelt on the cattail hassock on the ground and looked at the tablet of his father, Fang Yixing, in silence for a long time. Talk to your father. Fang Hui sat next to him and said, He can hear me. Fang Yen didn't respond. He looked at the black and white photo of his father on the tablet and fell into memory. The strict and gentle man, the man who was not good at expressing his feelings, the man who urged his wife to call him every time he missed his son, the man who loved painting but was despised by the people of Swallow Dock all his life, the man who would rather die than surrender and wanted to stop the murderer. He was gone. It became a scar in his heart, an emotional cancer that spread all over his body. No advanced equipment could remove it. I know what you are doing and how dangerous it is. Fang Hui looked at the back of Fang Yan's head and said in a hoarse but sonorous voice, I really want to tell you to give up and come back to Swallow Dock. But if the hatred has blossomed and borne fruit, even Swallow Dock can't protect us. Your father, he is a painful lesson. Our Fang family has only one son for many generations, and it is the same in your generation. If you are alive, the Fang family still has hope. If you are not alive, the Fang family will be cut off from now on. Fang Yan, I don't have any other request. I just hope you can come back safely. Fang Hui's eyes were wet and soon they were full of tears. The wrinkles on his face were like sharp knives, stabbing Fang Yan's heart. He didn't hide his feelings. This old man, who was strong and had never bowed to anyone, sobbed and said, Come back alive. Chapter 797. Fang Hui had never begged anyone in his life, but this time he was pleading with Fang Yan, begging him to come back alive. Come back alive. Only those who had truly experienced life and death would be able to feel the weight of these 4 words. Fang Yan, you must come back alive. Fang Hui's body trembled violently because he was crying too hard. Big drops of tears rolled down his cheeks. I'm old and I may leave at any time. If you're gone, your mother can't live either. I'm alone with a widowed mother, and I'm the only child. If you're gone, the Fang family will be disbanded. Fang Yan turned around and kowtowed to Fang Hui, banging his head hard on the faded wooden floor of the ancestral hall. His eyes were red, and he said in a hoarse voice, Grandpa, I promise you I'll come back alive. You won't leave, and the Fang family won't be disbanded. Our Fang family will get better and better, flourish and prosper. You must also live well. Live to see me marry a wife and have children. Live to see your grandchildren surround your knees. Fang Hui reached out and stroked Fang Yan's head, saying, Then it's settled? It's settled. Fang Yan nodded. I won't go, and you're not allowed to go. Every single member of the Fang clan, every single one of them, will never leave again. Good boy, Fang Hui said with a gratified face. The old man took out a folded handkerchief from his pocket and wiped the tears on his face. He looked at Fang Yan, who was kneeling in front of him and crying, and shouted, What are you crying for? A man doesn't easily shed tears. If he were to weep like a girl, what would that look like? Are you still Fang Hui's grandson? Get up for me and wipe away my tears. If your mom sees this, she'll cry again. Be careful, I'll whip you when that happens. Fang Yan hurriedly climbed up from the ground and stared at the old man who was as fragile as a candle in the wind and could be extinguished at any time with a face full of astonishment. In the blink of an eye, he had turned into a stern face and loudly criticized his grandson for being a sissy. This old man used to be from Qingqing sect, right? His main specialty was to learn the unique skill of changing faces. Fang Hui threw the handkerchief in his hand to Fang Yan and said, Wipe the horse urine off your face. Smile, smile more naturally. Your mother went to the garden to pick vegetables and should be back soon. Fang Yan wiped his face with a handkerchief and said, Then I'll go pick her up. Old Master Fang waved his hand and said, Spend more time with her. Your mother has a stubborn personality and likes to keep everything to herself. You have to talk to her. It would be best if you could convince her to bring her to Huaqing to stay for a period of time. Why are you always accompanying an old man like me? Grandpa, my mother won't go to Huaqing, Fang Yan said with a wry smile. I've called her countless times, but I couldn't persuade her to stay there for a few days. Fang Hui sighed. I'm not dead yet. If I die, she'll be free. Grandpa, didn't we agree just now? Fang Yan said anxiously. Fang Hui grinned and said, A married daughter is like water that has been poured out. Lu Gang, that arrogant old man, wants to take his daughter back now, but there's no way. Xiaowan is a member of our Fang family now, So she's a member of our Fong family. I have to live and live well. I can't die just to fight with old man Lu. Fong Yen nodded with a smile and said, "That's right. Grandpa often says that you're a reckless man, but he looks down on you from the bottom of his heart. You have to live well and see who lives longer." "That's settled then." Fong Hui laughed. "I'll call old man Lu later and tell him that I look down on such a stupid intellectual. He thinks he's great just because he can read a few words. I want to compete with him to see who lives the longest." Seeing that his grandpa Fong Hui had untied the knot in his heart and was truly happy, Fong Yen was a little relieved. Having an old man in the family was like having a treasure. Although the current pillar of the Fong family was Fong Yen, Fong Hui's life was of great significance to Fong Yen. As Fong Hui had said, if Fong Yen was gone, he and Fong Yen's mother, Lu Wan, would probably die. How could it not be the same for Fong Yen? "I'm going to pick up my mother," Fong Yen said with a smile. Fong Hui waved his hand and said, "Go. It's getting colder. Winter is coming." "Yes, winter is coming," Fong Yen said with a smile. Before Fong Yen could step out of the courtyard, he saw his mother, Lu Wan, coming back. Beside her was the little girl, Qingji. The two of them, one in front and one behind, seemed to be arguing about something. "Madam, just help me carry the basket. It's heavy and will tire you out," Qingji said anxiously. "You're really stupid. We're already at home, why are you still arguing with me? I've been planting vegetables for years. How can carrying a basket be a heavy job? Do you think I'll tire myself out?" "But, no buts. It's rare for Fong Yen to come back. I want to cook a few dishes for him personally. But you can cook if I bring the vegetables back." "Silly girl, the vegetables were planted by me, and I was also the one who picked them. I'm satisfied to bring them back and cook them for my son. It's rare for me to want to do something, but you keep talking around me. Be careful, I'll find you a husband." "Madam, I won't go out of the Fong family. I still have to serve you and take care of the children for Fong Yen when he gets married." Lu Wan smiled gently and said, "I don't know when he can get married. If I can see that day earlier, I'll be relieved." "Isn't Fong Yen in love with Miss Wenro? The whole Swallow Dock knows about it." Lu Wan sighed softly and said, "With the current situation of the Fong family, I'm afraid that the Yi family will make things difficult for Fong Yen." Seeing Fong Yen standing in the yard, Lu Wan quickly changed the topic and said, "Fong Yen, why are you standing here? Why don't you talk to Grandpa? When you're not at home, he keeps talking about you. Every day, he holds the mobile phone you gave him, but he refuses to call you." Fong Yen took the basket from his mother and said, "Grandpa asked me to pick you up. He's afraid that you'll be tired." Qingji quickly explained, "I'm going to help my mother carry the basket." Fong Yen looked at Qingji with a smile and said, "I know. Qingji is a very considerate person. But my mother is right. It's time to find a husband for Qingji." Qingji blushed and ran to the yard first. She said, "I'm going to the kitchen to cook." Fong Yen looked at Lu Wan's ruddy cheeks and asked, "Mom, are you tired?" Lu Wan shook her head and held Fong Yan's arm. She said, "I'm cooking a meal for my son. How can I be tired?" Fong Yen nodded and looked at his mother, Lu Wan. He said, "Mom, don't worry. I'll marry Wenro and make her your wife." Lu Wan beamed with joy and said, "Good, good. I believe you. It's not lively enough if we don't have a family. You can have more children." "I'll try my best," Fong Yen said with a smile. When Yi Ro was reading in the room, Yi Fengsheng sneaked in and said, "Sister, Fong Yen is back." Yi Ro responded lightly and said, "Yezi told me on the phone." Yezi also knows? It seems that third uncle has seen Fong Yen. Do you think third uncle wants to show his support to Fong Yen? If he is willing to help, will Fong Yan's situation be better? Yi Ro raised her beautiful eyebrows and said, "They don't want to help. They just stand on the shore and cheer for him when they are fighting in the sea." "Is that so?" Yi Fengsheng scratched his head and said, "If third uncle refuses to help Fong Yen, won't Fong Yen be in danger?" Yi Ro shook her head. "Why not?" "Because I will help him." Yi Fengsheng widened his eyes and said, "Sister, how will you help him?" It's not like you don't know what kind of family the Jiang family is. Right now, the Jiang family is using their wealth and power to crush Fang Yan. Fang Yan is a very rich person. Hee, if you think about it this way, it's not a bad thing if Fang Yan becomes my brother-in-law. At least my sister won't have to suffer after marrying him. Yi Rou's eyes became sharp. Yi Fengsheng also knew that he had gone off topic, so he quickly returned to the topic and said, "Sister, it's not that we don't want to help, but with our family's wealth, even if we bet the entire Yi family, we probably won't be able to help Fang Yan. The Jiang family is too powerful, so powerful that unless the Qin family is willing to help. Otherwise, the wealth of 10 Yi families won't be a match for them." "I don't want to compete with the Jiang family in wealth," Yi Rou said indifferently. We don't want to compete with them in wealth? Then how are we going to compete with them? What are we going to use to help Fang Yan? We can't stop the Jiang family's wealth, and the Jiang family can't stop my martial arts." Yi Rou's expression was calm as she spoke, as if she was talking about something that had nothing to do with her. But Yi Fengsheng knew very well that when she said something like that, she would really do it. "I'll go kill everyone in the Jiang family, and then everything will be fine, right? Sister." Yi Fengsheng was so scared that his chubby face turned pale and red. "Don't do anything stupid. If you do that, our family will be finished. That's something we need to consider after we kill everyone in the Jiang family," Yi Rou said firmly. Chapter 798. Yi Fengsheng and Fang Yan were good brothers, very, very good brothers. When Fang Yan was in danger, he was the first to stand up for him. He was willing to help him, and he was willing to fight for him, even to the point of dying in battle. However, he had never thought of using such an extreme method to drag the entire Yi family out to fight the Jiang family. This was the thought process of men and women. Men would consider the honor of their family, the continuation of their bloodline, and the safety of their parents. They were willing to sacrifice themselves, but they would never drag their entire family down with them. However, women only needed to consider one thing: whether it was worth doing and whether they should do it. Yi Rou was very angry that someone bullied Fang Yan, so she wanted to punish those bad people who bullied her man. How could they not be bad people if they bullied her man? Yi Rou was at the heavenly Dao realm. If she wanted to do such a thing, it was very likely that she would really do it. The world was huge, but there were very few heavenly Dao realm experts. Unless the divine dragon personally interfered, or no one could stop Yi Rou. It was because he knew his cousin's character that she definitely wasn't joking. It was also because he knew her abilities that although Yi Fengsheng didn't know that Yi Rou had successfully climbed the heavenly Dao, it was still easy for her to succeed with her current abilities. When that happened, Yi Rou's actions would be a devastating blow to the Yi family that had just risen in power. No country or person would allow such force to do such a thing. "Sis, can you stop joking?" Yi Fengsheng's face was filled with horror. "How can you say that it's something to be considered later? If you really kill everyone in the Jiang family, our Yi family will be destroyed as well." Yi Rou glanced at Yi Fengsheng and said, "I can choose not to do it." "As long as they stop attacking Fang Yan," Yi Rou said. "You can bring my words to the Jiang family. Or you can find someone to bring my words to the Jiang family. Sis, others will think we're crazy." "Crazy?" Yi Rou flipped open the book she was reading again and said with her head lowered, "Women are much more terrifying than crazy." Yi Fengsheng was thinking about how to persuade his sister to give up on this idea when he heard the sound of a car horn outside. Soon, it was noisy outside the courtyard. Yi Fengsheng greeted Yi Rou and said, "Sister, someone might be back. I'll go out and have a look." Yi Rou looked up at him and then buried her eyes in the book in her hands again. Yi Fengsheng didn't come back, but after a while, a servant came to ask Yi Rou to go out for dinner. Yi Rou closed the book and looked out of the window. Winter came, and the plants withered. However, the 2 frangipani he planted were lush and would carry a delicate fragrance with the breeze. "Who will come?" Yi Rou thought to herself. When there were no family members at home, they would eat in the small dining room. But when there were guests at home, they would eat in the hall. Today, they were having dinner in the living room, which proved that there were indeed guests at home. Yi Rou rarely paid attention to this matter. Most of the time, she just asked someone to send food to her room. But for some reason, her mind was exceptionally sensitive today. When Yi Rou walked to the door of the living room, she was stunned. There were no guests, but almost all the direct descendants of the Yi family were present. The patriarch sat at the head of the table, and beside him sat a few members of the Yi family's grandparents' generation. Father Yi Daowen, second uncle Yi Daoling, third uncle Yi Daoxian were all present. There were also Yi Fengsheng and a few juniors sitting at another table. Second uncle was busy with work and seldom came home. Third uncle Yi Daoxian was busy improving the Yi family style so that it could be promoted and tested in the military's special forces. He did not return home all year round, but today, they were all back. Yi Rou hesitated slightly before walking towards the table where Yi Fengsheng and company were sitting. "Rou!" Yi Daoling shouted. He waved at her and said with a warm smile, "Come sit here. The patriarch has something to ask you." Yi Rou thought for a moment and walked towards the head table. The other juniors were not surprised at all. It was no secret in the Yi family that the patriarch favored Yi Rou. Everyone was already used to it. Yi Rou was indeed outstanding. Ignoring everything else, just her martial arts alone was enough to suppress them to the point of suffocation. In their hearts, they were convinced by this. Furthermore, Yi Rou was cold on the outside but warm on the inside. She did not show any courtesy to outsiders, but she was extremely good to her family. Her brothers and sisters at home also liked her very much. Yi Rou sat at the end of the table, diagonally opposite the patriarch. The patriarch looked at Yi Rou lovingly and said with concern, "Rou, are you reading in your room again today?" "Yes, patriarch," Yi Rou said with a nod. "I know you are working hard, so I did not disturb you. I got someone to send some fruits over. You didn't forget to eat them, right?" "I ate them." "That's good. Girls eating more fruits is good for their bodies and skin. Although we Rou practice martial arts, our skin is more delicate than those rich young ladies who do not touch the sun. This is our capital as a woman." "Patriarch." Yi Daoling had no choice but to interrupt the patriarch's concern. If she was allowed to continue developing, there was probably no need to eat today's meal. "Why don't we first discuss that matter with Rou? You are so impatient." The patriarch looked at Yi Daoling with a complaining look and said, "No matter how Rou looks like, she is my good child." I know. Yi Daoling nodded repeatedly. "She is also our good child. Everyone dotes on her. Isn't everyone right?" Yi Daoling was worried that the patriarch would hold a grudge against him, so he wanted to drag some of his allies into the water. To his disappointment, no one stood up to respond to him. Yi Daoling laughed dryly and looked at Yi Rou and said, Rou, have you entered the heavenly law?" This question made many people present show a surprised expression. When did this happen? Yi Rou climbing the heavenly law was the top priority of the Yi family. Everyone in the Yi family had their hearts in their throats. Unfortunately, there were some changes in the end. Yi Rou failed to climb the heavenly law, but her life was saved by Fang Yan. Of course, this was what Fang Yan and Yi Rou said. Anyway, most people in the Yi family would not believe it. Yi Rou failed to climb the heavenly law and suffered a backlash from the heavenly law. Her body was weak for a period of time. Until now, she stayed at home all day to recuperate. Even her daily training had been suspended. Everyone was worried that they would hurt Yi Rou, so they did not even mention the heavenly law in front of her. Now that the family was gathered together, why did they mention the matter of climbing the heavenly law? Yi Fengsheng stared at everything that was happening around him. Second uncle was back, and so was his father. The important elders of the family had appeared, and the juniors of the direct line of descent were all present. Now, everyone was waiting for an answer? Was Yi Rou a Heavenly Dao Realm expert? Of course not. If she was a Heavenly Dao Realm expert, wouldn't the Jiang family be in for a bad time? Brother Fengsheng, you are usually close to Sister Rou. Do you know about this? What's going on? Rou succeeded in climbing the heavenly law? Didn't she just fail a while ago? Did she do it a second time? Isn't it too risky? I think it should be true. Otherwise, It's impossible for second uncle and third uncle to return at the same time. Yi Fengxing shook his head and said, I don't know about this either. Everyone looked at Yi Ro with concern. Everyone's eyes were focused on Yi Ro's face. Yi Ro didn't even look at their faces. She turned a blind eye to their gazes as she looked at Yi Daoling with an indifferent expression. She nodded and said, That's right. What? The entire room was alarmed. Pleasant surprise, horror, envy, admiration, and curiosity. How long had it been since the last time she failed to climb the heavenly Dao? How did she suddenly become a heavenly Dao realm expert? Even Yi Daoling, who had asked the question, was momentarily stunned. He looked at Yi Ro in disbelief and said, Ro, you can't joke around. Is this true? Yi Ro looked at Yi Daoling and said, Have I ever joked with you? Not really. Yi Daoling chuckled as his eyes narrowed into a slit. It was your third uncle who received some news and called me to confirm it. I said that I didn't even know about this. After a discussion, we decided to personally rush back to discuss it with you. After pondering for a moment, Yi Daowen looked at Yi Ro and asked, When did this happen? We didn't hear anything about it. You didn't fail the last time, right? I failed the last time, Yi Ro said. And then you tried again? Yi Daoling frowned. Ro, I know you are competitive and you aren't willing to admit defeat so easily. But such matters still need a gradual cycle. You can't rush it, or else problems will easily occur. I failed to climb the heavenly Dao. It was Fang Yen who saved me, Yi Ro said. He suffered the backlash of the heavenly Dao himself, but he helped me become a heavenly Dao realm expert. What? The hall was in an uproar once again as everyone discussed the matter. Chapter 799. Cowhide couldn't wrap up the awesome, and paper couldn't wrap up Fang Huohua. The fact that Yi Ro had become a heavenly Dao master was known by others. Even after the death of Tao addict Song transplanting, both parties wanted to hide it. It was originally a fierce battle in the forest, and not many people knew about it. Fang Yen and Yi Ro wanted to preserve their strength to prevent the Yi family from setting up more obstacles between them. So after Yi Ro broke through the obstacle and became a heavenly Dao master, they still didn't persuade the Yi family. They only said that Yi Ro failed to break through and suffered a huge backlash from the heavenly Dao and needed to rest. Bailey Lu was Fang Yan's partner. He naturally wouldn't tell others what Fang Yan didn't want to say. Jiang Junling wouldn't say it to others. It was a great shame to be expelled by the family. His master, who he relied on as a shield, was also killed by Yi Ro. Yes, although his master was shot to death by Fang Yan, he still subconsciously thought that his master was killed by Yi Ro. This was because Fang Yan was a shameless B****starred. With his mediocre martial arts, how could he possibly lay a finger on his master? The most unacceptable thing was that Song transplanting was killed by Fang Yan with a gun. People often said that the person who raised the eagle was pecked blind by the eagle. However, this was already a great honor in the eyes of Jiang Junling. If he was like his master, who pursued martial arts all his life and pursued the peak power in the world, but was killed by a rogue with a gun, wouldn't it be a joke? The death of Tao addict Song transplanting seedlings was a fatal blow to the side of General Ling. They didn't want such a secret to spread. The poor Tao addict Song transplanting was a scum of a generation. After his death, no one knew about it. Because he was too excited, Yi Daoling almost stood up from his chair. He looked at Yi Ro in surprise and said, Why didn't you say such a big thing earlier? That's right. Why didn't you say such an important thing? Yi Daowen was shocked at first, and now he was ecstatic. His daughter had become a heavenly Dao realm expert, so he had become a heavenly Dao realm expert. Her father, he felt like he was much more powerful than a heavenly Dao realm expert. The last time you failed to climb the heavenly axiom, everyone's hearts were hanging in suspense for you. Recently, no one in the family has talked about that matter, for fear of touching your sore spot. Ting, this kind of thing should not be hidden. This is the honor of our Yi family, and also the honor of our Swallow Dock. Apart from Mo Qingdi from decades ago, another heavenly Dao realm expert has appeared in our Swallow Dock. Furthermore, it's a heavenly Dao realm expert who's even younger than Mo Qingdi from back then. How can we keep it a secret? I don't want to say it. Yi Ro looked at everyone's probing eyes expressionlessly. She didn't intend to explain seriously. Why don't you want to talk about it? Yi Daowen still wanted to say something, but the great ancestor could no longer listen. He angrily interrupted his reprimand and said, Wen said that she doesn't want to say it. Why are you forcing her? She was a heavenly Dao realm expert, so it was a joyous matter. Just because she's not a heavenly Dao realm expert, does that mean she's not your daughter? Great ancestor, that's not what I meant. I just felt that this matter should be made known so that everyone can have some fun. Yi Daowen hurriedly apologized and said, You also know that when failed to climb the heavenly axiom the last time. Everyone was burdened with immense pressure because of her. The Yi family was also mocked by others, saying that we don't know the immensity of the world. Why bother with the gossip of others? Does our Yi family need others to point fingers at us when we do things? The great ancestor's tone turned more impatient as he said, The next time someone dares to do such a thing, just go up and smack him in the face. He doesn't know how to live up to expectations and doesn't properly practice his martial arts. Instead, he makes sarcastic remarks about the hard work of others. Such people won't amount to much their entire lives. Yes, Yi Daowen replied respectfully. Yi Daoxian was from the military, and he had the deepest and most unyielding features among the three brothers. He sat there like a handsome statue, and in terms of bearing, he was much better than his son. Yi Daoxian looked at Yi Wen with bright eyes and asked, You said that Fang Yan helped you withstand the backlash of the heavenly axiom? What's going on? Yi Wen didn't respond. She had already recounted what had happened, so she didn't wish to repeat it again. Yi Daoling understood Yi Wen's character, so he hurriedly explained, Wen encountered a heavenly tribulation when she was climbing the heavenly axiom. That stage was originally impossible to cross. Touching the power of the heavenly axiom, if one isn't able to kick down the door and cross it, one would be punished by the power of the heavenly axiom. Wen's situation was very dangerous back then, and that punk, Fang Yan, ran over noisily to find Wen. Elder brother and I tried our best to stop him, and even our Yi family's door was smashed by that punk. We were originally worried that he would disturb Wen's ascension, but who knew that by a freak combination of factors, he saved Wen's life. At the most dangerous moment, Fang Yan used his heart of Taiji to withstand the backlash of the heavenly axiom. It's said that even now, that punk's heart of Taiji can't be used normally. For this, the Yi family's patriarch often came to our house to have a chat with our patriarch, saying that their Fang family risked their lives for our Yi family, so our Yi family can't do such heartless things. Yi Daoxian nodded, but his gaze was still on Yi Wen's face. He asked, Can the backlash of the heavenly axiom be endured by someone else? Yi Wen nodded. He knew that this uncle was discussing this problem with him from a scholarly point of view. After all, he was currently improving and streamlining the Yi family style, and then promoting it to Hua Xia's special forces. What's the trick? The person who bears the backlash knows how to use the heart of Taiji. Yi Wen answered. Yi Daoxian found it difficult to continue, so the topic came to an end. Yi Daoling looked at Yi Wen in delight and said, Wen has become a heavenly Dao realm expert. Our Yi family also has a heavenly Dao realm expert. This matter needs to be celebrated. Patriarch, don't you think so? Yes, it needs to be celebrated. Yi Daoling echoed his elder brother's actions. This is a joyous occasion. Not stealing or robbing, but relying on one's own hard work and talent to climb the heavenly axiom at such a young age. The entire Swallow Fort should celebrate this matter for 3 days. Elder brother, communicate with Mr. about this matter. I believe Mr. will be happy to see the rise of an outstanding young man. That's right. Back then, when Mo Qingdi succeeded in climbing the heavenly axiom, Mr. had the entire village celebrate for 3 days. Our Wen can't lose to Mo Qingdi's procession back then, right? A white-haired old man beside the patriarch said. This matter will quickly spread to Beijing, and then to the entire country. The patriarch looked worriedly at Yi Wen and asked, Wen, what do you think? Yi Wenwen understood the patriarch's concern as she looked at him with a gentle voice and said, "Let them like it." "All right." Only then did the patriarch feel relieved. Seeing the person in question, Yi Wenwen, agree to the matter, everyone in the room laughed. Everyone felt joyous and joyous. Yi Daoxian looked at Yi Wenwen and said, "Has Fang Yan returned?" "I heard that he has returned." Yi Xiaojun, who was beside Yi Fengxing, said, "Someone saw him pushing Grandpa for a stroll by Stone River." Yi Daoxian frowned and said, "I heard that Fang Yan and the general family are fighting intensely. To the death." Yi Daoling gave an appropriate evaluation. He said, "The last time Mr. brought Fang Yan to visit the general family, it was to denounce Fang Yan, and also to put an end to this matter on Fang Yan's behalf. However, the general family's old patriarch would rather banish the offending grandson from the family than let the matter rest. This time, the general family attacked in anger, naturally with the intention of not stopping until one side is dead." Yi Daoxian shook his head lightly and said, "The general family, they have a lot of business. Although Fang Yan has some talent, he has just started out and will most likely die in this battle. I don't think he will win." After a pause, Yi Daoxian looked at Yi Wenwen and said, "Wenwen, I know that Fang Yan has helped you before, and I've heard some things between the two of you. However, you cannot get involved in this matter. If possible, you must keep your distance from Fang Yan. This matter is no longer just a fight between Fang Yan and a junior of the general family, but a fight against the entire general family corporation. We need to focus on our own development. There is no need to fight against that group of people." Yi Daowen deeply agreed and said, "Wenwen, your uncle is right. Fang Yan is a good child and a very talented martial artist, but the two of you are not suited for each other. Since it is fated that you will not be able to be together in the future, then it is better to sever this relationship as soon as possible. In the future, Daddy will find you someone more suitable. Is that all right?" Yi Daoling smiled without a word, but his eyes were paying attention to the changes in Yi Wenwen's expression. Yi Wenwen's expression did not change at all. She looked at her father before looking at Yi Daoxian and said, "There is no such thing as compatibility. If I like him, then he is suitable. If I don't like him, then he is not suitable." "You child," Yi Daowen was somewhat angry. To have his own words rebutted by his daughter in front of so many people, it did not look good on him either. "I will marry Fang Yan. I want to marry him." Yi Wenwen's voice was gentle and firm, but her tone had an unquestionable power. "That's impossible, Yi Wenwen." The voices came from different members of the Yi family, as though every member of the Yi family had a reason to strongly oppose this matter. Yi Fengxing's heart was about to leap to his throat, as though he could spit it out with a burp. "I will not allow this to happen," Yi Daowen said with an overbearing attitude. "You are so silly," Yi Wenwen said as she looked at her father. "In the past, you could not stop me. Now that I am a heavenly Dao realm expert, how can you stop me?" Chapter 800. You're such a fool. These 3 words were like a powerful atomic bomb being dropped on the dining hall of the Yi family. The noisy scene suddenly quietened down, and the lively discussion instantly stopped. Everyone looked at Yi Ro with astonishment, looking at the girl who said, "You're such a fool," to her father. The Yi family was a traditional family. Like other families in Swallow Dock, they all implemented the patriarchal system. The juniors had to be respectful when speaking to the elders. Even if the elders said something wrong, they couldn't refute them directly. What was Yi Ro doing? No one said a word. They even tried to suppress their breathing. Everyone stared at Yi Ro, at Yi Daowen, who had been countered by Yi Ro. Yi Daowen was the patriarch of the Yi family. He represented the dignity and face of the Yi family. He represented the Yi family's attitude towards a certain person or thing. Now, what kind of punishment was he going to give to Yi Ro, who had disobeyed him? Yi Daowen's expression was extremely gloomy. Because of his anger, the veins on his fists bulged. His eyes were fixed on Yi Ro. He stared at the daughter he had always treated as a treasure. Just now, what did she say to him? Yi Daowen wasn't a man who hadn't experienced many trials and tribulations. and because of his long years of practicing martial arts, his temperament and self-restraint could be considered first class. However, being slapped in the face by his own daughter in front of so many people, he still had a hard time accepting it. How did that sentence come about? Only the person you love can hurt you the most. That was exactly what he was feeling at this moment. Yi Daowen tried hard to calm the anger in his heart. He tried his best to make his voice dignified and gentle. What did you mean by those words just now? I'm saying that you can't stop me. Yi Rou's expression didn't change at all. On the contrary, one could see her calmness and sincerity in her eyes. She wasn't hypocritical, and she hated hypocrisy. She thought of this and said it directly. In the past, you couldn't stop me. Even if I wasn't a Heavenly Dao realm expert back then, when I wanted to marry Fang Yan, I would definitely marry Fang Yan. As long as he was willing to marry me. Now, I'm a Heavenly Dao realm expert. I have greater power and autonomy. If I want to marry Fang Yan, I will marry Fang Yan. This was following his own temperament and obeying the rules of the Heavenly Dao. Even the heavens won't stop me, let alone you. I'm your father, and you don't consider my attitude at all? I've thought about it and I've been troubled by it. It's also because I've considered your attitude and the Yi family's attitude that I've decided to hide the fact that I've succeeded in climbing the heavenly axiom, gentle, don't get too excited. Yi Daoxian wanted to smooth things over between the father and daughter. He was worried that their relationship would become even more strained, and it would be difficult to clean up when the time came. Your father is doing this for your own good. He hopes that you can consider the position and attitude of the Yi family. It's for my own good, Yi Rou said. I also hope that he can consider my feelings and my future. He's my father. Isn't that what he's supposed to do? What kind of father would let his daughter sacrifice for the family without caring about his daughter's feelings? It's not that your father doesn't consider you, but the Yi family's position and your choice are contradictory, so I have to compromise and turn a blind eye to everything that the man I like has encountered? The corners of Yi Rou's mouth curled up as she revealed a mocking smile. If that's the case, what's the point of me climbing the heavenly axiom? I can't even abide by the human path, and I still want to borrow the power of the heavenly axiom. Isn't that going against the heavens? Yi Daoling understood Yi Rou's character. He knew that there was no way to discuss this matter today. He smiled and said, Okay. Ru has her own considerations. The Yi family also has their own position. We need to discuss this matter in the long run. There is no need to rush it now. Regardless, today is a joyous day for our Yi family. Ro has succeeded in climbing the heavenly axiom, and she's the youngest heavenly axiom expert in Swallowdock and even the entire Huaxia. Our Yi family has a reason to celebrate. Yi Daoling looked at the patriarch and said, Patriarch, shall we have dinner? The patriarch didn't wish to see the family's internal strife either, so he nodded and said, Let's have dinner. All sorts of exotic delicacies surged onto the dining table like flowing water. Jar after jar of shadaozi were broken, emitting a rich fragrance of alcohol. The atmosphere in the hall turned lively once again, but everyone felt that the atmosphere was a little off. Qin Chang sat in the middle of the Qin family's juniors. He raised the teacup in front of him and said with a smile, Brothers, have you ever gone back and told your parents that the Qin family can't save Fang Yan this time? Who is Fang Yan? He has nothing to do with our Qin family, so why would our Qin family risk our lives for an insignificant person? Can we not say it? But it's useless even if we say it. That woman rejected the Jiang family's settlement agreement. She's clearly helping that punk. You can't say that the punk has nothing to do with our Qin family. He's the man Qin Etienne likes. Qin Etienne usually puts on a cold face in front of us. She doesn't think anything of us brothers, but she's dead set on a wild man outside. She clearly knows that he already has a girlfriend, yet she's willing to be his mistress. Doesn't she have any shame? Qin Chang waited for everyone to vent for a while before he rubbed the rim of his teacup and analyzed the situation. This is a huge matter. It's a matter of life and death for our Qin family. I've asked around at the Jiang family's side. They are bent on killing Fang Yan this time. And I heard that it was personally decided by the Jiang family's patriarch, and it was handed over to the Jiang family, who has been in the limelight recently. Tell me, for our Qin family to wrestle with them at this moment, if we don't control it well, the two families will end up in a life-and-death situation. But for benefits? But even if we get rid of the Jiang family, how much benefits can we get? Who knows, at that time, our Qin family's strength will be greatly damaged, and the Huang family, Li family, and Chen family will take advantage of us. We and the Jiang family usually mind our own business. It's not that we don't have small fights, but that's only courtesy demands reciprocity. This time, the seriousness of the matter is extraordinary. If the Qin family really goes to war with the Jiang family, those two women will be the sinners of the Qin family. But at that time, will it be too late for us to complain? We can only stop it before it happens. Qin Chang had 10,000 reasons to hate Fang Yan. Of course, he hated Li Xinyan and Qin Etian, who stood behind Fang Yan even more. The conflict with Jun Shepu last time was actually a flashpoint of his dissatisfaction with the two women who controlled the Qin family's power. Whether it was Li Xinyan or the new generation of Qin Etian, they were both rare business prodigies that only appeared once in 100 years. Because of this, some people even joked that because the Qin family's women took advantage of the Qin family's feng shui, the men of the Qin family were all idiots. In all honesty, was Qin Chang an idiot? Take a closer look. How could he be an idiot? This time, Li Xinyan refused the gift from the Jiang family, causing a huge split within the Qin family. Qin Chang and the other like-minded people saw the opportunity and wanted to make a big move. It would be best if they could push down Li Xinyan and Qin Etian. Qin Chang, you have the most ideas among us. Tell us what to do, we'll all follow you. Qin Yi shouted. That's right. We don't have much strength. We can't even say a few words before the elders in the family scolded us. I think we should stick together. Qin Guan echoed. In any case, I don't want to go to war with the Jiang family, and I don't want to go to war with the Jiang family for an outsider. Qin Chang waved his hand. It's not that there's no way. But as Qin Guan said, we don't have the strength to fight alone. As you all know, the Qin family is divided into two factions. One is for peace, and they agree to the Jiang family's agreement in exchange for all of Chao Yan's benefits. The other faction is for war. Although they didn't explicitly say that they want to go to war with the Jiang family, the Qin family rejected the Jiang family's offer. Isn't it clear that they want to go to war? Under the control and influence of those two women, my father is currently contacting the uncles in the family, as well as some of the direct descendants of the family who hold important positions in various businesses. He's prepared to force the Jiang family to abdicate. Force that woman to abdicate. As long as she abdicates, the conflict between the Qin family and the Jiang family will be easily resolved. I support you. Qin Guan nodded. I'll also convince my father and grandfather to support you. I support you as well. Let the woman go back to nursing her child. If Qin Etian really likes Fang Yan, he can marry into the Fang family. It's time for the men of the Qin family to stand up and take responsibility. The vision of women is still too shallow. Qin Chang smiled vaguely as he looked at his companions in the family who had been incited by him. Fang Yan, you're just an insignificant target. Our true targets are those two women. Their existence is too dazzling and we're too embarrassed. As a man of a family like the Qin family, you should be able to understand our situation, right? But who told them to like you? Many times, liking someone is a mistake. Chapter 801. Junling Clubhouse. Li Junling accompanied a few familiar guests for a drink before she gracefully stood up and said with a smile, "You guys have a good drink. I'm going backstage to prepare. I'll be playing a song on stage later." What else does Junling need to prepare? Your piano skills are so high. If we talk about a single instrument, even that music addict who's been playing it to perfection isn't as good as you, right? Chen Shuang said with a smile. Go do what you need to do. We'll take care of ourselves. I'll treat your place like my own home. If music addicts fans hear this, they won't let me off easily. Li Junling said with a smile. She patted her best friend Chen Shuang's hand and said, "See you in a bit." See you in a bit. Li Junling warmly greeted every friend she met and nodded to those who were a bit further away. Elegant and graceful, yet dignified. The style of the piano goddess is indeed extraordinary. It's a pity that she's going to marry the one from the Qin family. He's really not much. It's just a pile of sh*t. As long as it comes from the Qin family, it's more nutritious than the sh*t outside. Some people in the clubhouse praised Li Junling's beauty and extraordinary temperament, but even more people mocked and ridiculed the young master of the Qin family who was going to marry Li Junling. Saying the grapes are sour when you can't eat them was the AQ spirit of self-consolation. Li Junling didn't know what others were saying and didn't care. After she told the bodyguard at the door, she pushed open the wooden door of her private resting room. Near the window of the room stood a stalwart man in a white shirt. His facial expression couldn't be seen clearly, but just the side profile was enough to make people feel that he was extraordinarily handsome. Broad shoulders, thin waist, slender legs. His body proportion was comparable to that of a top male model. Li Junling's heart was filled with sweetness. She walked forward and hugged the man's waist from behind. She pressed her face against the man's strong back and said, "You've been so busy recently, how do you have time to come here?" "I missed you, so I came to see you," the man said in a teasing voice. Li Junling hugged the man even tighter and said, "I've always wanted to contact you, but when I found out that you went to Huaqing and heard that you were doing something so important, I resisted the urge. Besides, with our relationship, I'm not in a position to take care of you and care about you. Many times, I want to do something for you, but I don't know where to start." The man was silent for a moment and said, "The wedding is getting closer, right?" "They said it was before the new year," Li Junling said in a low voice. "There are only a few good days before the new year. No matter which one he chose, it would only take him a few days. In the past, he always felt that time passed too slowly, and every day felt extremely long. But now, I realize that time has passed too quickly. Before I could properly appreciate the day, it had already slipped away with a whoosh. I can't even hold it back." The man fell silent again. After a long time, he seemed to have made some kind of decision and said, "How about I tell Grandpa?" Li Junling smiled in a low voice and said, "This is not your style. Do you really dare to tell your grandpa about this?" "It's indeed not my style," the man squinted his eyes and smiled. "But, for the woman I like, I should always be hot-blooded for once. What's the saying again? Who doesn't have hot-blooded youth? I've never been young, and I haven't done too many hot-blooded things. But for you, I'm willing to take a risk." Li Junling was moved to tears, hugging the man's body tightly and said, "I know you have this kind of intention, and I'm already very satisfied. Our family and the Qin family are too closely tied together. Qin Chang and I have already been engaged for a long time, and now we're at the last step. If you stand out at this time, how would they see you? How would your Jiang family see you?" "It's a bit difficult." The man's face was full of sorrow. "If I tell Grandpa about this, he'll definitely scold me for not being able to control my crotch, for not being able to take on such a heavy responsibility. The Qin family will also think that this is a great humiliation. Originally, they would have watched the dispute between our Jiang family and Fang Yan with cold eyes. After this, I'm afraid they have no choice but to come out and help Fang Yan fight against our Jiang family." I know everything," Li Junling nodded and said. "That's why I don't want to make things difficult for you. You're a very capable man, and it wasn't easy for you to get to this point. I don't want you to waste all your efforts because of me. I know very well how much effort you've put in to get to this point. But I still have to give you an explanation." The man sighed softly and said, "How many years have we known each other?" 7 years. Li Junling didn't hesitate to say the correct date. 7 years ago, we met at a Xiangshan charity banquet. Although we didn't say a word to each other at the banquet, when we left, we walked out one after another. We took a walk in Xiangshan, from halfway up the mountain all the way to Yanjing City. I didn't ask you where you came from, and you didn't ask me who I was. Then, we walked until now." There was a gentle smile on the man's lips. He reached out to hold the back of Li Junling's hand and said, "Yes. 7 years, from that night until now, it's been 7 years. So, It's because of this that I can't let you go so easily. You're my woman in the past and in the future. I won't allow other men to touch you, and I won't allow you to fall into the arms of other men. I can't accept it. But, no buts. There was a cold smile on the man's lips. He said, "Time, I just need a little time. After I take down Fang Yen and consolidate my position in the Jiang family, I'll bring up this matter to the old man. I want to marry you, everything will take its course. If the Qin family isn't afraid of both sides suffering, I won't hesitate to fight with them." Jun Xing. The man suddenly turned around and hugged Li Junling's thin body in his arms. Before Li Junling could say anything, her mouth was already covered by the man's. Soon, the room was filled with pleasurable yet extremely repressed moans. Outside the room, the bodyguard standing at the door was pale, and sweat appeared on his forehead. He looked at a corner in horror, as if there was an ugly monster hiding there. Fang Yen finally saw Yi Rou. At that time, Fang Yen was chatting with his grandfather in the yard and heard the voices of his mother and Yi Rou talking in the front yard. The old man, Fang Hui, looked at Fang Yen meaningfully and said, "Rou is a filial child. She will come to see your mother and me. Although she doesn't talk much, it's easy to feel her sincerity. She even brought gifts many times. The firefox blanket I'm wearing is a gift from her. She said that the weather is getting colder and colder, and she needs a blanket to avoid getting cold. I heard that Yi Daoling brought it back from Yanjing and gave it to his ancestor, but she sent it to me. Have you talked to Rou about that?" "Not yet." Fang Yen shook his head. "You have to find a way to solve this shameful thing yourself. I only have one request: you can't deceive Rou," Fang Hui said seriously. "I know." Fang Yen nodded heavily and said, "I will find a chance to talk to her. If you can deceive her for a lifetime, you don't have to say anything." Fang Hui blinked and added, "Anyway, I want a grandson, or a granddaughter. The Fang family is short of people." "Not so fast. It's as easy for other people's children to give birth like a hen laying eggs." Yi Fengxing won the girl of the Bailey family without a word, and the wedding will be held on New Year's Day. He said that he already has a child. Why is it so difficult for you? Are you? Fang Hui's eyes swept over Fang Yan's body and asked, "What's the problem?" While the grandfather and grandson were talking, Yi Rou had already walked over from the front yard. She glanced at Fang Yan, then took the initiative to greet Fang Hui. She handed over the basket of pastries in her hand and said, "I just made these today. I know you like them, so I packed a basket for you." Fang Hui laughed with the basket in his arms and said, "I understand what Rou means. You're sending delicious food to shut Grandpa's mouth. Okay, I won't say anything. I'm going to my room to eat pastries. You two young people can go out and have a walk." Yi Rou didn't look shy. She looked at Fang Yen and said, "Let's go out for a walk." Fang Yen glanced at his grandfather and said, "Grandpa, I'm going out with Rou. I'll talk to you later when I come back." Go. Fang Hui chewed the delicious pastries and said, "Can I say no? Can't you see that my mouth has been blocked by the little girl?" Beside the stone river, Fang Yen and Yi Rou walked side by side on the bank. Women carrying baskets of vegetables and old men carrying hoes came back from the fields. They greeted them and laughed kindly when they saw them. The news that Fang Yen and Yi Rou were in love had long been spread in Swallow Dock. "I was going to see you early tomorrow morning," Fang Yen said with a smile. "I know." Yi Rou nodded. "But I can't wait." In the twilight, the green mountains in the distance looked like a long, ink-stained dragon. There was no bright moon in the sky, nor a star. However, Fang Yen clearly felt that his eyes were shining. The girl standing in front of him was the warmest sun in his heart. Chapter 802. But I can't wait. Yi Rou said it naturally and relaxedly. However, it was also this natural and relaxed attitude that revealed her true nature. One day seemed like 3 years. There were still several hours until tomorrow morning, but for some people, these hours were longer than 1 day, 1 month, or even 1 year. Yi Rou didn't want to wait. The man she liked lived next door. She could see him in a few steps. Why should she wait until tomorrow morning? Who would care about the neighbor's slander or the man's family's contempt? As for being reserved, she wouldn't care about it. Why did the word reserved have to be imposed on women? Why didn't men know about being reserved? Fang Yan looked at Yi Rou's profile and said softly, I shouldn't wait until tomorrow morning. I should ask you out tonight and hold you in my arms. Yi Rou turned to look at Fang Yan and said, Don't. Someone is watching. You don't care about it anyway. Fang Yan held Yi Rou in his arms and let her head lean on his shoulder. He said, I can't wait to do this. I don't want to wait for a second. Rou, I didn't expect you to be so cute when you say love words. Yi Rou raised her eyebrows and asked, Did I say love words? You did. You said, but I can't wait. These words were words of love. The sweetest love words in the world. Fang Yan said with absolute certainty. Yi Rou nodded and said, So this is love words. Your love words are also very nice. Fang Yan held back his laughter and asked, Which love words are nicer? You said, I can't wait to do this. I don't want to wait for a second. Yi Rou said softly. I'm very happy to hear that. Hearing you say that you're happy to hear this, I'm also very happy. Yi Rou opened her mouth and gave up helplessly. She said, I don't know what to say. Then don't say anything. Hold me tight. Yi Rou gave Fang Yan a hug, but when she saw someone walking over, she pushed him away immediately. Fang Yan felt wronged and said, Do you know that in a normal relationship, if a girl does this kind of action, it will hurt a man's self-esteem? Yi Rou nodded and said, I know. But I think you read different. You're right, I'm different from them. Fang Yan grinned and said, They are all little kids. How can they be compared with a mature man like me? We are more broad-minded and can tolerate more things that young people can't bear. You are thick-skinned so you can take more blows. You shouldn't feel hurt. The corners of Yi Rou's mouth curled up with a pleasant smile. She was willing to attack Fang Yan like this and tell his friends some jokes about Fang Yan's shamelessness. Fang Yan definitely didn't know that when they were young, she was actually very envious of Fang Yan's friends wherever he went. Whether it was when he bullied her or did other bad things, there would always be a group of friends around his age who would cheer for him. Of course, there were also boos. No matter what, they all liked him very much. Even her cousin, Yi Fengxing, was one of them. At that time, she was always alone. You misunderstand me. Fang Yan said with a bitter smile. Yi Rou stopped under an old willow tree by the river. She looked at the dark and deep river with a trace of silver floating on it and asked, Fang Yan, how are you? I'm very good. Fang Yan said with a smile. What about the Jiang family? I hope they're not so good. I knew you're this kind of person. Yi Rou's eyes brightened and her voice became light. No matter how strong your opponents are, you won't be easily defeated by them. In the past, the Qianye military department was an opponent that we had to look up to. But in the end, they still lost to you. Although I know you're sincerely praising me, I still can't help but want to correct a mistake. No matter how strong my opponents are, I won't be defeated by them. You used the word easily. Using the word easily doesn't sound right. It sounds like they can defeat me if they put in a bit more effort. That's impossible. But it's still very difficult, right? Yi Rou asked. It's very difficult. The smile on Fang Yan's face gradually disappeared. He said with a heavy voice, It's not easy to be an opponent like the Jiang family. If you're not careful, you'll lose everything. That won't happen, Yi Rou said. What won't happen? Even if you lose, you won't lose everything. A faint blush finally appeared on Yi Rou's cheeks. She turned her eyes to the surface of Shihizi and said softly, You still have me. Fang Yan beamed and said, Rou, why are you so cute tonight? I feel like I'm not afraid of you anymore. Yi Rou stared at Fang Yan and asked, Were you afraid of me before? I wasn't afraid. I just respected you a little. I couldn't help but want to respect you. But I was still afraid. Yi Rou said. I really wasn't afraid. If I was afraid of you, why would I want to marry you? Am I right? Fang Yan, I want to talk to you about something. Rou, I also want to talk to you about something. Fang Yan looked at Yi Rou and said with a serious face. Yi Rou pondered for a moment and looked at Fang Yen thoughtfully. She nodded and said, What do you want to say? You know about the existence of Lu Chaoga, right? Yes. You two used to live together in Rosefinch. When Chiba challenged you in the Ministry of War, I saw her in the small courtyard where you lived. Yi Rou had a very good memory. She certainly wouldn't forget that she had seen Lu Chaoga before. Pausing for a moment, he added, a very capable and charming woman. When she saw me, there was wariness and hostility in her eyes. But she didn't know about it. Between me and her, Fang Yen dodged her eyes and didn't dare to look into Yi Rou's eyes. Before seeing Yi Rou, he felt that he had made enough mental preparation. He felt that it was his fault and he had to bear the responsibility. He wanted to confess to Yi Rou. He wanted to beg for Yi Rou's forgiveness or accept Yi Rou's unforgiveness. In any case, he had to let Yi Rou know. Otherwise, if the truth was exposed, it would hurt Yi Rou and Lu Chaoga more. Of course, the current situation itself was a kind of injury. Have you slept together? Yi Rou asked aloud. Can you imagine how Fang Yen felt at this moment? He just wanted to drink some water, but someone fired a powerful water gun and sprayed it on his face. Fang Yen stared at Yi Rou and asked in surprise, How do you know? Grandpa told me. Yi Rou said expressionlessly, I've only heard of people who set up their fathers. How could there be someone who set up their grandson? Fang Yen felt that he was killed by the old man in his family. Didn't we agree that, let me solve this matter by myself? Didn't we agree that, I must confess by myself and no one can help me? Didn't we agree that I shouldn't hide it for the rest of my life? Grandpa, what the hell are you playing at? Don't you know that you will kill me by setting me up like this? Don't you understand that love is sometimes very fragile? Of course, Grandpa didn't understand. At that time, they must have been arranged by their parents. They didn't even know what their grandmother looked like before they entered the bridal chamber. The muscles on Fang Yan's face twitched. After swallowing a few mouthfuls of saliva, he looked at Yi Rou cautiously and asked, Grandpa, what did he say to you? Nothing much. Yi Rou's expression didn't show any sadness or joy. She said lightly, he just asked me if I like Lu Chaoga. Grandpa asked me if I like Lu Chaoga. I'm not familiar with Lu Chaoga. Why would he ask me this question? Of course, it's because you are familiar with her. Fang Yen, I just don't want to think about it, but I'm not stupid. Grandpa has already hinted so clearly, how can I not know what he means? I think the relationship between you two must be extraordinary, otherwise, you and Grandpa wouldn't be in such a difficult position. Yi Rou's expression became serious. She looked at Fang Yen with murderous eyes. Yes, it was indeed murderous. Yi Rou, who had entered the heavenly Dao realm, gave people a feeling of gentleness like water. Even the coldness from before had melted a lot. She looked like an ordinary woman. However, at this moment, Yi Rou was filled with danger. It made people feel the biting cold aggression that could kill with a touch. Yi Rou looked at Fang Yen and asked in a deep voice, Fang Yen, aren't you afraid that I'll be angry? Plop. Fang Yan's body retreated continuously, and his back leaned against the hard stone wall of someone's house. He looked at Yi Rou with a sad face and said, I'm ready. You can do whatever you want. Of course, I know this still won't solve any problem. So, before you make any decision, can you listen to me first? I don't like to listen to nonsense. Yi Rou's tone was cold. I know. Fang Yen said in a deep voice, I love you. Chapter 803. I love you. For true lovers, these 3 words were worth a lot of gold. To a casual one-night stand couple, these 3 words were not much different from good morning or I want to take a dump. However, as for how to distinguish whether it was nonsense or not, that would depend on the benevolent and the wise. At that time, the sword was only 0.01 centimeters away from my throat. But after the time for a quarter of an incense stick, the owner of the sword would fall in love with me completely because I decided to tell a lie. Although I have told countless lies in my life, I think this one is the most perfect. Oh, sorry, I got the wrong line. There was no sword, only the strong killing intent emanating from Yi Ro's body. Yi Ro stared at Fang Yan coldly, as if she was staring at a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Should she kill him first and castrate him, or castrate him first and then kill him? This was a very illogical question, but how could a woman be logical? I love you, Fang Yan looked at Yi Ro and said. He thought his way of solving the problem was perfect, just like the way Joker answered Xixia Fairy in Journey to the West. A senior gambler once said that when a woman was angry, as long as she said the words, I love you, to her, she would instantly lose her mind or IQ. Once a woman lost the ability to think, she could only be led by a man to move forward. However, Yi Ro was obviously not that kind of woman. Yi Ro looked at Fang Yan's face and said, a move you often use? Do you think it will work on me? I know, you are the most difficult person in this matter, Fang Yan said with a red face. It was not only because of embarrassment, but also because of the timidity and guilt of facing Yi Ro. Things have happened, and the result has been determined. But such a fact is pushed in front of you and you have to choose whether to accept or reject it. This is a great injustice to you. I'm not a victim. From a man's standpoint, I'm the one who benefits the most. I should be responsible for everything I've done. I was very nervous at the time, but I had to pretend to be calm in front of the other woman because it wasn't her fault. I said that I would bear all the sins and consequences. I want to say the same to you. If you are angry, you vent. If you hate, you fight. But you can't kill me yet, because I still have important things to do. I have to live, at least for a while. I have to protect my grandfather and my mother. I have to make sure that they are safe and that no harm will befall them. At that time, I will be at your disposal. If you really did that, maybe I would feel better in my heart. You mean, I can't do anything to you now? Not really, why don't you scold me now? Fang Yan asked cautiously. Or you can beat me up, Fang Yan, I'm very angry. Yi Ro stared at Fang Yan and said. I know, Fang Yan said in a low voice. He slightly lowered his head, showing that he was admitting his guilt. You're sorry. Yi Ro's tone became even colder. Yes, I'm sorry. You have to compensate. Okay, I'll compensate. What? You have to marry me, Yi Ro said. Okay, I'll marry you. Fang Yan suddenly raised his head and looked at Yi Ro in surprise, asking, What did you just say? You have to marry me, Yi Ro said. You have to be responsible for me. I know, but Fang Yan's head felt like it had been rained on for a whole night. He was in a daze and couldn't find the right direction. Just a moment ago, they were about to fight and kill each other. How did it turn into a romantic drama in the blink of an eye? The scene changed so fast that Fang Huohuo couldn't react. I'm your girlfriend, Yi Ro said. Yes, you always have been. I'm also your boyfriend. Our family knows about us. Everyone in Swallow Dock knows about us. Many people in Yanjing also know about us. Mrs. Li and Uncle Zhang in the village just saw us hugging. Yes, they saw. Fang Yan nodded his head like a chick pecking rice. What does this woman want to say? Why did it feel like she was different from before? If I encountered such a thing in the past, I would directly rush up and beat her up. She would beat me up happily and I would suffer happily. It was straightforward and efficient, without any sloppiness, nor would it make people feel uneasy and uneasy. What does she want to play? If you don't marry me, my reputation will be ruined, Yi Ro said. Accept or refuse. No, this matter. Accept or refuse. Aren't you angry? I've done something wrong to you, the heartless and ungrateful kind, angry. So I asked you to marry me. Accept or refuse. I accept. Yi Ro nodded and said, Go back and prepare the betrothal gift. After that, she turned around and walked back the way she came. Her back was soft and beautiful, and her two long legs were light and powerful as if she was stepping on the strings of a piano. Fang Yan was stunned on the spot and hadn't come to his senses until now. He knew that Yi Ro usually didn't talk much, but she had a very high IQ. Is it because she hates me so much that she wants to force me to marry her and then have a bunch of children and beat my children every day to get back at me? Thinking of this possibility, Fang Yan almost burst into tears. My children are so pitiful. These women are so scheming. Fang Yan walked back home in a daze. His grandfather, Fang Hui, was sitting in a chair and drinking tea. Seeing that Fang Yan had returned, he handed over the teacup in his hand and shouted, "Boy, go and pour me another cup of tea." The pastries given by the little girl when Nuan are delicious, but a little too sweet. I need to drink more water to get rid of the greasiness. Hey, why are you back so soon? He sized up his grandson's body and asked in puzzlement, "You don't have any injuries? Didn't she break a leg or a few ribs or something?" Fang Yan poured a cup of warm water and handed it over, shaking his head and saying, "No. That's strange. It doesn't match that girl's character at all." Fang Hui's face was solemn. He looked at Fang Yan's face again and said, "Have you heard? That girl Yi Ro has entered the Heavenly Dao realm. She's the youngest Heavenly Dao realm expert in Swallow Dock. No, in the whole of Wuxia. I heard that the Yi family went to Sir and asked him to let Swallow Dock celebrate for 3 days. Sir agreed and engraved Yi Ro's name on a stone tablet at the village entrance. When was the last time a name was engraved on a stone tablet? It was when your eldest senior brother succeeded in ascending to the Heavenly Dao by underestimating his enemy. It's impossible to tell when a Heavenly Dao realm expert beats someone on the surface. I know you always suffer because you want to save face. If you're injured, quickly tell your family. Get someone to help you circulate your blood so that you can recover faster. Don't force yourself to bear with it." "She didn't hit me." Fang Yan shook his head once again. "Is that so?" Fang Hui's face looked a little regretful. "Then she scolded you. It's fine even if she scolds you a little. I know that lass Ro. She doesn't hold back when she hits you, but she can't say anything harsh. Scolding you a little is already letting you off lightly." Fang Hui suddenly thought of something as his body trembled. He said, "Don't tell me Ro wants to break up with you? Has it already come to this?" "No." Fang Yan looked at his grandfather with a grumpy look. "Can't this old man think of something better? You sold me out secretly and pretended that nothing had happened. I haven't even settled the score with you yet. Then what on earth is going on?" Fang Hui couldn't drink the warm water anymore. He stared at Fang Yan anxiously. "She asked me to take responsibility," said Fang Yan. "Take responsibility? Things have already happened. You can't do anything to Miss Xiaoga, can you?" "She asked me to marry her," said Fang Yan. "She said that everyone in the village knows about us. If I don't marry her, it will be bad for her reputation. I'm very worried now," said Fang Yan. "Worried about what?" "Worried that your great-grandson will be bullied by his mother," said Fang Yan. "She doesn't want to get back at me, so she wants to get back at my son. When my son is born, he won't have a good life. Isn't that right?" Smack! The old man, Fang Hui, smashed a sandalwood stick at Fang Yan's head and scolded, "Are you possessed, boy? Yi Ro wants to get back at you, so she forced you to marry her to give birth to a son for you, and then bully your son?" "I'm just worried." Fang Yan touched his head and said with a wronged expression, "Your son is not her son. If she bullies your son, isn't she bullying her own son?" "That's true. Besides, Yi Ro is a Heavenly Dao realm expert. Why would a Heavenly Dao realm expert want to take revenge on a fickle man? If I were Ro, I would have smacked you to death. Kid, tell me quickly. Did Ro really ask you to marry her? Did you hear something wrong? Did she say when? Shouldn't our Fang family prepare something? She asked me to go back and prepare a betrothal gift. It's done." Fang Hui slapped his thigh and said, "I've already prepared the betrothal gift." Fang Hui said with an intoxicated look, "Yi Ro is a Heavenly Dao realm expert. She's the youngest Heavenly Dao realm expert. Although my grandson isn't very capable, my granddaughter-in-law is powerful. Let's see who dares to look down on our Fang family." Chapter 804. Children were always better than those from other families. Therefore, there was a miraculous existence. Children from other families. For his good-for-nothing grandson to be able to marry the Heavenly Dao realm Yi Ro, it made Fang Hui overjoyed. Fang Yan, our Fang family's feng shui is really good. It's extremely good. Think about it. In the past century, how many Heavenly Dao Realm experts have appeared in Swallow Dock? 2 in total. There were only 2 of them. They were the one who underestimated the enemy 20 years ago and the one who became gentle 20 years later. Both of them were members of the Fang family and had a close relationship with the Fang family. Although our Fang family has only one descendant, every generation is an outstanding elite. Although outsiders think that each generation is worse than the last 20 years ago, due to Azure Dragon underestimating enemies' existence, our Fang family was not to be belittled. This time, if what you say is true and reliable, and Yi Ro is really willing to marry you, willing to marry into our Fang family, then our Fang family will have another Heavenly Dao Realm expert. When we return from underestimating our enemy, our Fang family will have 2 Heavenly Dao Realm experts holding down the fort. Old Man Fang's face flushed red as he danced in joy. He was so excited that he couldn't even speak properly. 2 Heavenly Dao Realm experts. How powerful would that be? There are only a few Heavenly Dao Realm experts in all of Wuxia. At that time, even if you were an idiot, no one would dare belittle you, Grandpa. Fang Yan was very displeased with the old man's words. Why did he become an idiot? Although his current martial strength was a little weak, and his heart of Taiji had yet to fully recover, he couldn't be considered an idiot, right? He still had a mind that was good at scheming, and he had the intelligence to devise strategies. He also had a handsome face and an outstanding bearing. How could he be an idiot? Old Man Fang Hui completely ignored Fang Yan's displeasure and continued expressing his joy. Do you know what it means for Yi Ro, who is at the Heavenly Dao Realm, to marry into our Fang family? It means that our Fang family will rise again. It means that no one will dare to bully our Fang family again. It means that your battle with the general family, that bunch of bastards will have to consider if they can withstand the revenge of our Fang family's women. Grandpa, you shut up! Fang Hui shouted. Fortunately, he's gentle, affectionate, righteous, and broad-minded. He doesn't care about what you've done outside. Otherwise, wouldn't this great marriage be ruined by you? Do you know how much effort I've put into making this marriage happen? Do you know how they treated me the first time I went to challenge the Yi family? She didn't care about you at all. If I didn't ask Yi Ro to beat you every year, and sometimes a few more times, how could you two have such a deep relationship? Can you get to where you are today and win the heart of a beauty? Behind every successful grandson, there must be a grandfather who silently contributes. Grandpa, go and call your mother over. Fang Hui waved his hand at Fang Yan and said, I have to discuss with her who to find as a matchmaker. I also have to ask Sir to help me find a good date to send the betrothal gifts. It would be best if he can calculate the date of the wedding. By the way, we also have to think of a good matchmaker. The Yi family is not an ordinary family now. The matchmaker must have some weight. Why are you still standing there? Go quickly. Grandpa, you have a granddaughter-in-law and you have forgotten your grandson. Besides, you haven't married your granddaughter-in-law yet. Only then did Fang Hui take a serious look at Fang Yan. He chuckled and said, I've told Wen Raowen that if you make that kind of emotional mistake again, she doesn't need to do anything. I'll punish you according to the family rules. Fang Yan went to call his mother Lu Wan. Lu Wan was very happy to hear that Yi Ro agreed to marry him. Yes, she did say so. Then she began to discuss with Fang Hui about who to find as a matchmaker, what betrothal gifts to send, and when to set the date of the engagement and the wedding. Fang Yan stood there for a long time and found that he was completely invisible. He was a little confused. Wasn't he the one who was going to get married? Why didn't anyone ask for his opinion? I might go back on my word, Fang Yan thought to himself. Soon, he shook his head and gave up the idea. I'm just being reserved. If I can marry Yi Ro, I'm willing to be beaten by her every day. Winter hadn't come yet, and the first snowflake was still far away. But Mr. Fang had already put on a thick gray robe, as if he couldn't stand the early cold in the hollow of Swallow Dock. Mr. Fang carried a dung basket on his back and a dung bag in his hand. He casually picked up the dung from the animals at the foot of the road while talking to Fang Yan. Ro is still ahead of you. There was a comfortable smile on Mr. Fang's face. which was a compliment to the outstanding achievements of the younger generation of Swallow Dock. People used to say that Yi Ro was a rare martial arts prodigy in Swallow Fort. That's right, but it's also wrong. Seeking for martial arts is a mysterious thing. Some people take the first 99 steps, but they get stuck at the last step, and it's hard for them to take the last step in their lifetime. Some people fall behind by 99 steps, but the latecomers catch up as if they took the 100 steps in one night. At that time, there were 4 people in Swallow Dock who stood on the same level: Yu, Yi Ro, Bailey Lu, and Bai Xiu. I'm not praising Bai Xiu because he is my apprentice, but because he really has the talent in this area and can give people enough expectations. And you can't deny that he worked harder than the 3 of you. Fang Yan nodded and said, I don't deny that. Bai Xiu worked harder than us. He wasn't a member of Swallow Dock, and he couldn't integrate with us. Because he came from the outside, and because he was too outstanding or too hardworking, we all ostracized him, whether intentionally or unintentionally. Perhaps this was also the cause of everyone's deep resentment. At that time, we were indeed too young and impetuous, and did a lot of things wrong. What choice did we have at that time? Mr. Fang shook his head and sighed. It's natural for young people to fight and quarrel. Even ordinary young children will quarrel for years and not speak. What's more, this is Swallow Dock. If you're not convinced, I won't admit defeat. Isn't that a very normal thing? It's still the mentality. If the mentality is crooked, the steps will also be crooked. Swallow Dock can't tolerate him. Mr. Fang picked up a pile of dried cow dung on the ground and carried the dung basket forward. But now, only Yi Ro has stepped onto the Heavenly Dao, becoming the youngest Heavenly Dao realm expert in Swallow Dock. So, she's ahead of all of you. This is a great thing for Swallow Dock. How many years has it been since Swallow Dock had a Heavenly Dao realm expert? It wasn't easy for us to have someone like Mo Qingdi, but in the end, we encountered such a thing. So, when Daowen came to me to ask Swallow Dock to celebrate this matter for 3 days, I agreed immediately. With such a thing happening, I'd be happy even if it's a 30-day celebration. Fang Yan nodded and said, it's indeed something to be proud of. Gently stepping onto the Heavenly Dao is very beneficial to us. Bailey Lu has been like a madman for the past few days, trying to find a way to break out of the cage. Such matters can't be rushed. It comes naturally and goes with the heart, Mr. Fang said with a smile. So, are you ready to marry Teng Wan? That's the case, Fang Yan said with a nod. Then he looked up at Mr. Fang and asked, does Mr. Fang already know? I knew a long time ago, Mr. Fang said. Fang Yan smiled and said, I've troubled everyone regarding Gentle and me. It is indeed troublesome, Mr. Fang said with a nod. Before you came back, when Wan came to see me, oh? Fang Yan looked at Mr. Fang with a puzzled gaze and asked, what did Gentle look for you for? She said she wanted to marry you, Mr. Fang said. Back then, why did she look for you to say this? You should know what Gentle's ascension to the Heavenly Dao means to the Yi family, right? I know. Fang Yan nodded. The Yi family's reputation is rising again. No one can stop it. That's right, Mr. Fang said with a smile. The Yi family's development these years has been too smooth and too rapid. Not only is it unstoppable in Swallow Dock, but it has also formed its own faction in the outside world and become a behemoth. The 3 tigers of the Yi family have outstanding abilities, but they are low-key and introverted. It must be easy for you to overlook Yi Daoling's influence in the political world and Yi Daoshuan's power in the military, right? Fang Yan's mind turned and he looked at Mr. Fang and said, Gentle is worried. On the one hand, Gentle is a little worried. Although the men of the Yi family look like mountains and rivers on the surface, they are extremely tough in their bones, proud and awe-inspiring, and not easily subdued. The development of the Yi family is naturally a good thing for the Yi family. But blessings and misfortunes go hand in hand. Who can be sure that this is not a bad thing? Gentle wants to put a break on the Yi family, so she has to leave the Yi family. The best way to leave the Yi family is to marry into your Fang family. Mr. Fang looked at Fang Yan and said, The Fang family used to be glorious, especially during the period of don't underestimate the enemy. They even walked to the peak of glory. Unfortunately, underestimate the enemy fell due to injuries, and the Fang family once again fell to the low level. These years, the Fang family's luck has not been good. Yi Xing died in battle, and your heart of Tai Chi is also fluctuating and uncertain. So, at this time, Yi Gentle marrying into your Fang family is the best of both worlds. Mr. Fang Yan's face was burning with pain. He said, "You mean, I'm a burden?" "You can't say that," Mr. Fang said as he strode forward with the manure basket. "It's just luck. You don't have too much psychological pressure. Gentle is a good child. Even if she enters the Fang family's door, I'm sure she won't treat you too badly." Chapter 805. Fang Yan had always felt that he was the youngest, most handsome and fair-skinned successor of the Fang Tai Chi. Why did others feel that he was pitiful and deserving of sympathy? He could be Fang Yan, the Fang Yan who fought against the Qinya military department, the Fang Yan who killed the father and son of the Jiang family, the Fang Yan who forced Jiang Junling to be expelled from the family, the Fang Yan who killed the Tao addict Song Zaniang, one of the 7 addicts of Wuxia, the Fang Yan of Tiger Sawflower City, and the Fang Yan who fought against the Jiang family head-on. As an adult who had just come of age, achieving such achievements could be described as blinding the eyes of others. Why was it that when it came out of everyone's mouths, they all seemed to despise it? Could it be that there was a man more outstanding than him in this world? Impossible. Fang Yan swallowed a few mouthfuls of saliva, then looked at the teacher and said, "Sir, I think you have some misunderstandings about me, walala." The teacher poured the feces in the basket into the manure pond in the backyard, then placed the basket in the corner of the wall. He rubbed his hands and pushed open the small wooden door. He washed his hands by the well in the yard, then took a black towel and wiped his face. Only then did he look at Fang Yan and ask, "What misunderstanding?" "I think I'm quite powerful too," Fang Yan said. The teacher grinned and asked, "How are you powerful?" "The Jiang family has always wanted to kill me, but they haven't been able to until now, so I'm very powerful. How many of the people the Jiang family wants to deal with are still alive and well?" Fang Yan said with a serious expression. "Moreover, I might not lose. Have you ever thought that the Jiang family might lose this time? If the Jiang family loses, what will the result be? How will other people look at this matter? What kind of expression will they use to look at me?" The teacher rubbed his wrinkled old face and nodded. "What you said is not impossible. I think you won't lose." Fang Yan was overjoyed and asked, "Do you think I will win?" "It's also hard to win," the teacher said. "You're in a dilemma now." Fang Yan began to dislike Sir. He had changed. He had become very strange, almost like his 2 masters. If you have something to say, can't you just say it all at once? Why did they have to make it so complicated? The man didn't care about Fang Yan's disdainful look. He pushed open the door and walked in. He sat down on his old rattan chair as if his body was exhausted. He waved at Fang Yan and said, "Go pour me a cup of tea." Fang Yan responded. He saw a big teapot on the table and poured a big bowl of herbal tea from the teapot and handed it over. The teacher didn't take it and shouted angrily, "You brat, you're too insensible. I'm already so old and it's such a cold day, and you're giving me this kind of herbal tea. Aren't you afraid of freezing my body? If your grandfather asked you to pour tea, would you pour this kind of herbal tea for him?" Fang Yan's face was full of grievance. He knew that with Sir's martial arts cultivation, not to mention drinking a bowl of cold water, even if he was soaked in ice water 24 hours a day, it wouldn't freeze his body. This old man was so unreasonable. However, thinking of Sir's martial arts cultivation, Fang Yan didn't dare to offend him. So he quickly ran over and added half a bowl of hot water into the tea bowl. Only then did Sir take a big gulp. He looked at Fang Yan and said, "Sit." Fang Yan sat in front of Sir and said, "Sir, I'm from Swallow Dock. I've been bullied outside. You have to help me." Sir held the tea bowl and looked at Fang Yan asking, "You want to borrow power?" I want to borrow a knife. Fang Yan said. If the young and old of Swallow Dock unite, even 10 families of generals won't be enough for us to kill. We can kill our way to the general's old mansion in minutes. You and that old man Jiang Shifu are old friends, so I'll leave him to you. Although your martial arts are good, you have to be careful of him using a spear. I think people at his age can do anything shameless. And then the generals will disappear. We'll return to Swallow Dock and continue to live and work in peace. Fang Yan said with a smile. I can't promise you. You know I won't promise you. You're pushing Swallow Dock into a pit of fire. If Swallow Dock really did something like that, would it still be Swallow Dock? Would anyone still tolerate our existence and give us these privileges? I'm just saying. Fang Yan rubbed his nose and smiled bitterly. I just feel so suffocated. Others are already bullying us, but we can't do anything. We can only passively take a beating. This isn't our style. If those heroes who sacrificed themselves knew that their descendants were in such dire straits, do you think they'd be so angry that they'd come back to life and fight the generals? If the generals were really unscrupulous, they wouldn't have only shown this little bit of power. Haven't you noticed? They've always been doing things within the rules. Whether it's touching Du Qing or suppressing the businesses of Chao Yen and your partners, they're all tactics that can be used in business competition. This is also why we can't stand out and say anything. Could it be that just because you came from Swallow Fort that others couldn't snatch or touch your business? Or maybe it's because the generals have deep connections behind them that no one can compete with them head-on. This is obviously unreasonable. But it's immoral for them to kidnap people. Fang Yan said angrily. Master glanced at Fang Yan and said, You killed the Tao addict Song Zaniang. Will the generals jump out and reason with you? So, no one is actually willing to reason with us now. No. On the surface, everyone is reasonable. On the surface, they're not reasonable. In private, there are many things that can't be done. Master, you're not willing to come out? Why do you need to come out? Master smiled. If you sit here and don't move, the people behind the generals can't move either. If you move first, they'll follow suit. That's true. Fang Yan sighed. Fang Yan's hands and feet were tied. The generals also couldn't use more of their power. If he didn't have an existence like Swallow Dock behind him, they could probably do a lot of things to make him disappear into thin air. Now that he had to act economically, he had to admit that they must be very uncomfortable. You're right about one thing, Master said. Which one? You said you're very powerful, Master said. Fang Yan grinned and said, Master, do you really think so? Do you know why I don't think you'll lose? Because I can't see through you. Master finished half of the tea in his bowl, then handed the empty bowl to Fang Yan and said, I've seen through so many people, but there are only two I can't see through. One is Bai Xiu, and the other is you. Master Zhang has a bad eye for people. I told you a long time ago that Bai Xiu wasn't a good person, but you didn't believe me. Now do you know why I kept my distance from him? That's true, Master smiled bitterly. But I can see that you have a drive in your bones. This drive is very terrifying. It can make you do anything. Even if you suddenly defeated the generals tonight, I wouldn't be surprised at all. Because I don't know what you can do, I can't even guess what you're planning. To get to where you are now, isn't it because of this drive? I'm currently taking a beating, Fang Yan said. The situation in Flower City isn't very optimistic. I'm planning to return tomorrow after seeing you. What kind of logic is that, leaving your friends behind? The men of Swallow Dock can't do such a thing. Master looked at Fang Yan and said, You won't go back. Why do you say that, Master? Because you didn't get anything. What? You didn't get anything from this trip back to Yanjing, Master said. That's not your style. What do you mean, Master? You came to Yanjing at the most critical moment in Flower City, which means you must have some plans in Yanjing. If you didn't get anything, why would you leave Flower City at this time? Didn't I say that I came to Yanjing to get reinforcements? Fang Yan spread his hands and shrugged helplessly, saying, I just didn't get any reinforcements. If you didn't come to Yanjing, wouldn't you know the final result of this trip? Whether the Qin family will make a move, whether Qin Etienne will make a move, Couldn't you have calculated all of this? Master looked at Fang Yen thoughtfully and said, Fang Yen, what do you want to do? Fang Yen looked at Master for a long while, then got up and bowed to Master, saying, Thank you for your advice, Master. I know what to do. With that, he turned and walked out of the door of the small house. Fang Yen, Master called out. Fang Yen turned to look at Fang Yen and asked, Master? I've already announced the news of Wenru successfully climbing to the heavenly Dao realm. Swallow Dock will celebrate for 3 days. I've also spread the news of you and Wenru getting married, and the day of the wedding has been chosen. It'll be on the 8th of the 12th lunar month. It'll be appropriate for you to get married. Fang Yen stood in the yard and bowed to Master again, saying, Thank you, Master. Master waved his hand and said, Go do what you need to do. You can lose, but you have to come back alive. If you're alive, there's hope. If you're dead, you're just a handful of dirt. Fang Yen smiled and said, Don't worry, Master. I definitely won't lose. Chapter 806. Qin Chang was very busy these 2 days. He was busy contacting the direct descendants of the Qin family to form an anti-feminist alliance, helping each other and working hand in hand. Those who were strong would contribute, and those who were weak would fool their parents to contribute. No matter what, he had to overthrow the 2 mountains that were riding on the heads of the Qin family's males. Qin Chang was very busy, and it was worth it. He found that almost all the young men of the Qin family were not satisfied with Li Xinyan and Qin Yitian taking over the power of the Qin family. They were all dignified 7-foot men. They had manners and were capable. How could they live with such a small amount of dividends every month? A real man should take over the power of the Qin family. No matter what, they had to drive the mother and daughter away this time. As for who would take over the power of the Qin family, it was not up to him as a junior to decide. However, he personally thought that his 4th uncle was very qualified. He was his father's brother, and he had doted on him since he was a child. If 4th uncle were to take over, she would become the Qin Yitian she was now. Just thinking about it made her feel a little excited. Mansion number 1. In order to avoid being noticed, Qin Chang had arranged for everyone to gather there. The other brothers were running around outside, while he stayed in the center to collect information and control it. Qin Guan, how is your contact? Qin Chang asked when he saw Qin Guan striding into the room. Qin Guan asked the servant to bring him a cup of Longjing tea. Then he answered Qin Chang's question. My father, my mother, and my uncle have made a decision. They said that some things should be considered carefully. The Qin clan had a lot of men, and the children were all capable. How could they be allowed to idle around all day and do nothing? They have to find opportunities to gain experience, don't they? Qin Chang was overjoyed. He said with a smile, Your father and your uncle are willing to stand up for us. Our chance of success has increased by 10%. I'd like to see how they will talk this time. I'm afraid that the elders in the family... Qin Guan reminded him. Do you think the elders in the family are willing to side with the mother and daughter? Wasn't it for the stability and unity of the Qin family? If they see that the people of the Qin family have changed their minds and everyone wants to kick them out of power, I'm sure at that time, they will go with the flow and agree to our request. Qin Chang excitedly analyzed the situation and said, Besides, don't your grandpa and my grandpa want their children to go there? Now that the opportunity has come, isn't it natural for them to give it a push? Qin Guan nodded repeatedly and said, Big brother, it seems that we can succeed this time. Of course. Qin Chang's expression was incomparably firm. This is not only our thoughts, but also the thoughts of all the uncles in the family. Think about it, 2 women forcefully oppressing 2 generations of men in the Qin family. Who would feel good? Their current situation is our future. What we have to go through in the future, they have endured for many years. This is a war of justice. Anyway, I'll follow you. Qin Guan smiled and said, Brother, your wedding date is approaching, right? Qin Chang patted his head and said with annoyance, Look at me, I almost forgot something important. We agreed to try on wedding dresses today, but I was so busy that I forgot it. Qin Guan was also anxious and said, "Big brother, this kind of thing can't be delayed. Hurry up and get busy. Leave the rest to us." Qin Chang patted Qin Guan's shoulder and said, "Let's keep in touch." After saying that, he got up and walked outside. When he walked downstairs, the driver was already waiting at the gate of the number 1 mansion. "Go to the Imperial Court," Qin Chang said. The driver nodded and drove the car to the Imperial Court. The Imperial Court was the most famous wedding photography shop in Yanjing and even the whole country. It was famous for providing personalized, customized services. Besides, it was only open to the public on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. The rest of the time, it was closed and only served some special guests. Sometimes, the entire Imperial Court would only decide on a plan for a couple. When Qin Chang rushed over, Li Junling had already arrived. Li Junling was in the midst of choosing a wedding dress with the beautiful boss of the Imperial Court, Chen Mengyao, as well as the head designer, Mu Bai, and the others. When he saw Qin Chang enter, he only glanced at him indifferently and smiled. "I thought you forgot." "How come?" Qin Chang walked quickly to Li Junling and said, "I've been thinking about it. It's just that I didn't finish some things at hand, so I came a little late." "Junling, don't mind it." Li Junling shook his head and said, "Why would I? Men have their own things to do. If I mind it, how can we live together in the future? Mr. Qin is gentle and considerate, and Miss Li is beautiful and generous. What an enviable couple." The beautiful boss of the Imperial Court, Chen Mengyao, complimented them. Qin Chang nodded at her and said, "Any man who can spend a lifetime with a woman like Junling will take care of her in every possible way." "I'm far from doing enough." Li Junling held Qin Chang's hand and leaned into his embrace and said, "I believe you. We will definitely be happy in the future. Do you think this dreamy princess dress that I chose looks good?" Qin Chang looked at the blue princess dress that was made from fairy tales and nodded. "Junling is a princess. You will definitely look good in this wedding dress. You will be the most beautiful bride in the world. There are a few more in front. I think that angel white dress is also very good. Let's go take a look." "Miss Junling, if you like it, you can try it on," Chen Mengyao encouraged. "Can I?" Li Junling asked with a smile. "Of course," Chen Mengyao nodded. Li Junling looked at Qin Chang and said, "Do you feel bored?" "Why would I?" Qin Chang had a doting expression. "To me, nothing is more important than what we are doing today." "Then let's try it," Li Junling said. The chief designer, Mu Bai, gave the order. A group of wedding dress store employees behind him immediately got busy. Li Junling went into the inner room to try on the wedding dress, while Chen Mengyao invited Qin Chang to the rest area for tea. Because she knew Qin Chang's identity, Chen Mengyao tried her best to please him. She personally brewed a cup of tea for him and said with a smile, "Young Master Qin, you have to invite me to your wedding. Let's go and bask in the happiness." Qin Chang was in a good mood that day. He immediately agreed to Chen Mingyao's request. He said to the bodyguard standing beside him, "Ming, remember this. You will personally deliver the invitation to Miss Chen." The bodyguard bowed in agreement, indicating that he would keep this matter in mind. At that moment, Qin Chang's phone rang in his pocket. He took out his cell phone and saw that it was Qin Guan's number. Qin Chang answered the phone and said with a smile, "Qin Guan, you are doing this on purpose, aren't you? You know that I have something important to do today, but you just had to call me at this time." "Brother, something happened?" Qin Guan sounded a little impatient. "What happened?" Qin Chang tensed up. What could happen? Could it be that the two women found out about their secret contact? So what if they knew? Anyway, they had already contacted them, and it was obvious that they wanted to force them to step down. Or would the elders of the family stand up and stop them? That would be bad. At that time, should he continue or stop? "Brother, that," Qin Guan stammered on the other side of the phone. Qin Guan was angry and said, "Qin Guan, it's not a big deal. Things have been pushed to this point. Even if the two women know, what can they do? Don't tell me you don't have the courage to confront them after they shout at you? Look at you, don't you look like a man?" "Brother, it's not about that. If not this, then what is it?" It's about you. What's wrong with me? Qin Guan was even more curious. Could it be that some kind of fire was burning him? Qin Guan sneered in his heart. It seemed that they had realized his importance and knew that he was the one behind it. If they wanted to shoot the bird that stood out, they had to find a way to kill him first. However, he had already established his power. They could not let him succeed with just a few words. Benefits, they had to give him enough benefits. Soon, they would come to his door and negotiate with him, wouldn't they? At that time, he would open his mouth like a lion and bite off a big piece of fat from them. Sister-in-law, Li Junling, is she with you? Call her sister-in-law. She will be your sister-in-law from now on. Why are you asking about her? Brother, didn't you see that video? Video? What video? You'd better watch it, Qin Guan said anxiously. Tell me what video? Qin Guan was a little angry. This guy could not do anything right. He could not even say a complete sentence. How could he achieve anything great? No wonder the power of the Qin family had been controlled by the two women for so long. The main reason was that these guys were useless. I'll send it to you. Then Qin Guan hung up the phone. Ding! Qin Chang received a message on his mobile phone. He opened it and saw a recorded video. He could clearly see his fiancée, Li Junling, with a man. After watching the video, Qin Chang was short of breath and his face was red. His forehead was dripping with sweat, and he looked like he was suffering from a serious illness. General, Qin Chang roared sadly. Chapter 807. Qin Etian reclined on the sofa, polishing her slender nails with scissors while watching the Nasdaq stock chart on the big TV screen in the room. For Qin Etian, paying attention to the stocks of several markets every day was as important as watching the news every night to see the political trend. Mu Ying pushed open the office door and walked in. Ignoring the bad posture of this noble and elegant young lady, who looked like a peacock with its tail open 24 hours a day, he said in a clear voice, "Miss, it's very noisy outside." How so? Qin Etian asked without raising her head. She had just finished repairing the 5 fingers of her left hand, and there were still 5 fingers on the right that had not been repaired. Women had a lot of things to deal with every day, and every one of them seemed to be extremely important. She couldn't be careless at all. The other families have united a lot of people, saying that they want to force the elders in the family to abdicate. They think that Madam and Miss are a little powerless to control such a big family business. They think that as the men of the Qin family, they should stand up and share some obligations and responsibilities. Anyway, that's what they said. Share obligations and responsibilities. A sneer appeared on Qin Etien's lips, but it was fleeting. It seemed that in her heart, looking down on them was looking up to them. The family releases more than a dozen entrepreneurial projects every year. Why don't they have the guts to take them? Occasionally, there are a few cases. How about the performance? Are there any profits or hopes of making profits in the future? Did they really not know what they were made of? Jumping out at this time to make trouble, it's really idiot. Qin Etien's sexy mouth jumped out 2 gentle words. Miss. Mu Ying knew that the young lady he served was arrogant and didn't care about ordinary people at all. He had to persuade her, "Do you want to remind Madam? Madam has been too busy recently. I'm afraid that she hasn't noticed what's going on here. After all, it seems that it's just a few children playing, but in fact, there are adults and elders behind them. If Madam doesn't guard against them at all, I'm afraid that they will bite her when the time comes." Qin Etian glanced at Mu Ying and said, "Mu Ying, you are becoming more and more meticulous." Mu Ying acted as if he had done something wrong. He didn't dare to look straight into Qin Etien's eyes and said embarrassedly, "Miss, am I worried for nothing? It's not superfluous." Qin Etian lowered his head to trim his nails again. "At least I know your sincerity. Do you know why idiots can never accomplish something?" Qin Etian asked. Mu Ying shook his head and said, "Maybe he's too stupid?" It's one thing to be stupid, but your partners are also stupid. This is more sad. They collude with each other, and the people they colluded with run out to leak information to claim credit. How can such a group of people succeed? I was worrying too much, Mu Ying said with a smile. I didn't expect them to be so stupid. I talked to Mother about this. She said to let them play, she's busy. Qin Etienne looked up at the latest stock index and pointed to two stocks, saying, buy 97002 and 16321. Buy as much as you have. The confidential secretary heard this and immediately passed on this order. Qin Etienne focused on trimming his nails again and said, is there any news about Fang Yan? Mr. Fang went back to Swallow Dock. Mu Ying said with a smile. Before this, Master Xia of the Xia family met him. It was Xia who introduced him to Yi Daoling. Yi Daoling also invited him to breakfast, back to Swallow Dock. Qin Etienne stopped cutting her nail clippers. She's at Swallow Dock too, she said thoughtfully. Mu Ying immediately understood Mrs. Worry and said with a smile, Miss, do you want to go out and relax? What's the point of fighting? Qin Etienne shook his head. If I go there now, I'll just throw my modesty on the ground and let others step on it again. If I can succeed, I don't care about this. But there's no hope. There's no hope at all. I can see that Mr. Fang has feelings for Mississippi, so what? Qin Etienne asked. He said it's a teacher-student relationship. Obviously not. Since he said so, I can only believe him. Qin Etienne smiled bitterly. Who asked me to be one step later than her? It was like a beautiful flower had lost its moisture in an instant. At this moment, Qin Etienne was still extremely beautiful, but she had lost the aura that she exuded from her bones. Mu Ying thought for a while and said, Miss, you are not someone who gives up easily. Is that so? Qin Etienne thought about it and said, Indeed. If I want something, I will definitely get it. Then Fang Yan, he is an exception. Qin Etienne shook his head. My feelings for him are like a needle piercing into his flesh. The harder I try, the more pain he will feel. Since that's the case, why don't I make it easier for him? Qin Etienne waved his hand and said, Get out, I don't want to talk anymore. Mu Ying and Qin Etienne's confidential secretary left together, leaving only Qin Etienne in the spacious office. Qin Etienne threw the nail clipper into the box and lay down on the soft leather sofa. His black pupils looked at the boundless sky through the transparent glass. He sighed deeply and muttered to himself, She's here too. Pornographic videos spread faster than viruses. The former tried to seduce you, while the latter made you impatiently fly into the fire like a moth to a flame. At first, it spread in a small circle in Yanjing. Soon, it spread to a larger and larger area. Finally, it was out of control and spread to a wider range of people. Although the major media and chat software blocked and deleted the video immediately, some things had been deeply hidden in people's minds. No matter what antivirus software you used, you couldn't find it. Li Junling, that bitch, looks so cold on the surface. I didn't expect that she could do such a thing in the dark. TSK, the Queen of Piano's figure looks good. Let's bet. Qin Chang versus General Hang. Who do you bet on to win? There was a lot of discussion and sarcasm. The world was full of different forms. Everyone knew that a storm was about to come. However, the two parties involved maintained an unusual silence on this matter. No, it was the three parties involved. Whether it was Li Junling, Qin Chang, or General Hang who intervened in their relationship, none of them expressed any opinion on this matter. Even after the video was released, the three never appeared in public again. During the turbulent times in Yanjing, Fang Yan was dragged by his grandfather, Fang Hui, to the Yi family to propose marriage. The matchmaker that Fang Yan hired was Mr. He was considered the most respected person in Swallow Dock, so it wasn't considered a disgrace to the Yi family. When Mr. came, the Yi family's patriarch also came out to accompany him. Mr. looked at Yi Daowen, Yi Daoling, and the three Yi brothers who had yet to leave and said with a smile, Daoxian has lived in the village for a short period of time. He has been busy with the military, so there are many things that he isn't very clear about. Daowen has been living in the village for a long time, and Daoling has come back from time to visit. The two of you should be familiar with this child, Fang Yan. It can be said that we watched him grow up. It's easy for Swallow Doc to produce talents. Let's not talk about the past. Your Yi family's 3 tigers, which one of them isn't awe-inspiring outside? There's also Mo Qingdi, who stepped into the heavenly Dao realm. Although he suffered this calamity because of his carelessness, it's not impossible for him to recover. If he were to really find the ice dragon's tendon to mend his remnant meridians, wouldn't he still be a heavenly Dao realm expert of our Swallow Doc? In the entire world, how many people are capable of fighting against him? There's no need to mention Wenwan. She's a rare martial arts prodigy of our Swallow Doc. She succeeded in reaching the heavenly Dao realm at a young age, and is the youngest heavenly Dao realm expert of our Swallow Doc in all of Wuxia. Yesterday, Daoist came to me and said that he wanted to hold a celebration for 3 days. I wouldn't even agree to it for 3 months, much less 3 days. Wenwan is a good child. Fang Yan is also a good child. And what's even rarer is that the two of them know each other well and have feelings for each other. Yesterday, when I went out to pick up feces, old man Li, who lives in the east, even joked with me that he saw the Fang family's kid and the Yi family's lass walk past his door. He said that he had to come over and have a drink when the two of them set up a feast. The villagers are also looking forward to attending their wedding feast. Sir's gaze landed on Yi Daowen's face as he said with a smile, "Daowen, you are Wenwan's father. Logically speaking, this matter should require your approval. Now that the Fang family has sent the betrothal gifts over, it's now your turn to discuss it." He used his finger in his sleeve to point at the mountain of betrothal gifts inside and outside the house and asked, "Are you going to accept these betrothal gifts or not? Are you going to nod or shake your head? Say it in front of everyone." Yi Daowen's expression was gloomy as he stared intently at Fang Yan. This left Fang Yan depressed as he thought to himself, "It's useless even if you stare at me. I still haven't fully figured out the situation." Yin Wan sat beside Patriarch and saw her father remain silent. The other 2 uncles didn't seem to have any intention to speak either. Yin Wan glanced at Patriarch and said with a clear and firm voice, "I've accepted the betrothal gifts. I agree to the marriage." Chapter 808. I accept the betrothal gift, and I agree to the marriage. While the Yi family remained silent, Yi Ro agreed to Fang Yan's proposal. She was in charge of everything. "Ro, you can't do this." Yi Daowen hurriedly stopped her. Even though he knew his objection wouldn't have much effect. But when he thought that the daughter he raised was about to be tricked away by a bastard to become another man's wife, he felt a deep anger in his heart. That bastard, how could he cheat his precious daughter away? "Yes, Ro, marriage is not a game. We know your relationship with Fang Yan, but this matter, shouldn't you think it over?" Yi Daoling's objection was very tactful. He only said, "Think it over," but he didn't reject it outright. He saw Yi Ro's determination. If he forcefully opposed it, it would only incite the conflict between the Yi family and Yi Ro, forcing her to make an even more extreme choice. It was better to make some space for both sides to calm down. Maybe something bad would happen while they were thinking, and then Yi Ro wouldn't like Fang Yan anymore? What if it was like this? "Ro, I think your father and second uncle are both reasonable." Yi Daoxian was serious in speech and manner, and he always had a straight face when persuading people. He said aloud, "You and Fang Yan have known each other for many years, but you've only been in love for a few days. In such a short time, are you sure you've truly understood this man? Is he also able to completely understand you? Moreover, marriage is different from love. After marriage, you have to live together day by day, year by year. Everyone's strengths and weaknesses will be magnified infinitely. Some subtle things that are originally overlooked by others, after accumulating for a long time, may very well become some explosive points of conflict between 2 parties. Fang Yan's excellence is undeniable, and it is also a matter worthy of blessing and gratification that the 2 of you can be together. However, we only hope that you can be more cautious and be more responsible for your marriage. Wait a while, see if the 2 of you are suitable for each other, Think if you have the courage to tolerate all of each other's weaknesses and walk together through thick and thin. Ro, what do you think? Yi Daoxuan's words were reasonable and there was no way to refute them. Even Fang Yan thought what he said made sense. Marriage was not a child's play. Yi Ro should think about it carefully. I have so many problems. What if Yi Ro can't take it anymore and wants to divorce me? If he didn't agree, what if she hit him? She was a heavenly Dao realm expert, and he wasn't her match. Wouldn't this be the result of her domestic abuse every day? Besides, Fang Yan had a guilty conscience. Although he had confessed his relationship with Lu Chaoga to Yi Ro didn't give him any instructions. What was she thinking in her heart? Would he mind my relationship with Lu Chaoga? In other words, she would break both her legs and lock herself at home. There were many problems that needed to be carefully considered. We can't wait. Yi Ro glanced at Fang Yan and said, what if someone else takes it away? The atmosphere at the scene suddenly became extremely strange. Everyone looked at Yi Wen-ro with a dull expression. The woman who said this. Was she really the arrogant and cold iceberg Yi Ro who never looked anyone in the eye? Even Fang Yan himself widened his eyes. This was obviously not Yi Ro's style. Was she possessed by Qinitian? The gentleman coughed violently. It was unknown whether it was because of a physical illness or a physiological reaction. He coughed so hard that it looked like he was going to cough out his internal organs. The young people's style changed too quickly. As an old man, he couldn't keep up. Old man Fang Hui was stunned at first, then a strong smile appeared on his face. He looked at Yi Ro with joy, as if he liked her more and more. The old man was also happy. All the teeth in his mouth fell off. He reached out and patted Yi Ro, who was sitting next to him, but he couldn't say a word. The three Yi brothers were the most embarrassed at the scene. They didn't expect Yi Ro to say such a thing. First, they were extremely shocked, then their faces turned purplish red. Yi Daowen looked at his daughter with disappointment and said, Ro, you are a girl. How can you say such a thing? If he is really snatched away, it's better not to have such a man. This? Ro, your thoughts are wrong. Yi Daoling coughed twice as well, as if he had been infected by the gentleman. You are beautiful and smart. Furthermore, you are the youngest heavenly Dao realm expert in all of Wuxia. You are the only girl like you in all of Wuxia. As long as you are willing, you can find the best man. What kind of man can't you find? Women need to be strong and brave, but they also need to have an independent personality. You must not lose yourself. That will be an obstacle to your path of seeking the Dao. Yi Daoxian no longer wished to speak to this junior of his. He felt that Yi Ro had been brainwashed. When had Yi Ro ever spoken to someone like this in the past? They hadn't met for a period of time. How did she become like this? At this moment, Fang Yan had no choice but to step forward and say something. After all, be it Sir or his grandfather, the reason why they were here was to help him marry Yi Ro. Fang Yan smiled at Yi Daowen's ferocious gaze and said, Uncle, I understand how you feel. The daughter you have raised for more than 20 years is suddenly going to become another man's wife. You must be very disappointed and find it hard to accept. The reason why you feel this way is because you are a good father. You love your daughter with all your heart. Yi Daowen's expression softened a little, but on second thought, I obviously love my daughter with all my heart. What does it have to do with you that I love my daughter? Hence, he glared at Fang Yan with an even more ferocious gaze. Sir is here, and my grandfather is also sitting here. I swear on the reputation of Sir and my grandfather that I will treat Ro well for the rest of my life. I will make her a strong and brave woman with an independent personality and an eternally beautiful woman. I will make her a blissful wife. For this, I am willing to give up everything I have. When saying this, Fang Yan looked at Yi Ro. This was from the bottom of his heart, and it was also what he had always wanted to say to Yi Ro. He hoped that Yi Ro could feel his sincerity, and he also believed that Yi Ro would touch his heart. Sure enough, Yi Ro's gaze also looked at him. Their gazes collided in the air, and then entangled together, unable to separate. The most beautiful love in this world was holding hands together, touching lips together, and colliding gazes in the air. All of it? Yi Daoling raised his eyebrows, and there was an inexplicable smile on his face. He looked at Fang Yen and asked, "What if Ro Ro makes you give up the hatred outside and return to Swallow Dock to practice martial arts?" Fang Yen looked at Yi Ro and said, "If this is Ro Ro's request, I will agree. You don't care about those national and family grudges? I originally didn't want to care. They were all provoked." Fang Yen said with a depressed face. Yi Ro looked at Fang Yen and said, "You can do whatever you want. Even if you marry me, you can still maintain your independent personality." "You're so nice." Fang Yen was so moved that his eyes were moist. To be able to marry such a reasonable wife, it was really a blessing to his ancestors. "I won't hit you in the future." Yi Ro felt that her heart was about to be melted, so she also said some words of love that could melt Fang Yan's heart. The blue veins on Fang Yan's forehead were bulging. "Dear Miss Yi, you don't have to say such words in front of me, right? Although you really think so in your heart, and I am really a little happy in my heart. Sir and my grandfather are still sitting next to me and listening. What if they suspect that my husband is not strong enough? And I will also protect you." Yi Ro said to Fang Yen, "Whoever bullies you, I will bully him." If there weren't so many people present, Fang Yen really wanted to hug Yi Ro in his arms and give her a good kiss. What an adorable lady. Why did she have to be his wife? Thinking of how he was about to marry a Heavenly Dao realm expert, Fang Yen felt that be it the Jiang family or any other enemies, they were all useless. Sir laughed out loud and looked at the couple, Yi Ro and Fang Yen. He said to the Yi family's patriarch, "Look, can you bear to separate this pair of children?" The patriarch smiled as well. He held Yi Ro's tiny hand in his and gently rubbed it, saying, "What a pair of good children." The three Yi brothers looked at each other, their mouths full of bitterness. A grown girl couldn't be kept at home. The patriarch glanced at Yi Daowen, Yi Daoling, and Yi Daoxian and said, "Why don't we just leave it at that?" Yi Daoling and Yi Daoxian didn't say a word as they turned to look at their elder brother, Yi Daowen. They thought to themselves, "Yi Ro is your daughter, so as her father, you have the most say. Although your say has almost been taken away by your daughter, it's even more unjustifiable for us to speak." Yi Daowen understood what his two brothers meant, but there was nothing he could do about this matter. He ignored his two brothers' expectant gazes and said to the patriarch, "Since the patriarch thinks it's good, then let's do it at that." "It's settled," Sir said with a laugh. "The 8th of the 12th lunar month, an auspicious day. Both of you should prepare yourselves." Chapter 809. After returning home, Old Master Fang Hui shouted for Fang Yen to pour tea for him. "Tea, pour me a cup of tea." The old man's face was full of excitement, and he said to Fang Yen in a very boastful tone, "I've dug countless traps in my life, but this is the most exciting one, and also the one that earned me the most. I lost a grandson and got a granddaughter-in-law back." Fang Yen poured the tea in the teapot into a cup and added half a cup of hot water to the cup. Then he handed the cup to the old man and said, "My marriage with Wen Wan was also a trap set by you? Isn't that obvious?" The old man said bluntly, "If I hadn't shamelessly gone to the Yi family to challenge them, you wouldn't be here now. Wen Wan is a Heavenly Dao realm expert. After the news is spread, wouldn't the Yi family break the door to propose marriage? Besides, even if Wen Wan wasn't a Heavenly Dao realm expert, there were still a lot of people who went to the Yi family to propose marriage. Why did Wen Wan have a higher opinion of you and get closer to you? Isn't it because of those years of fighting? Wen Wan has bullied many people in Swallow Dock all these years. Bai Xiao, Zhu Ziden, Li Xiaotian, Bailey Lu, which one of them hasn't been beaten by Wen Wan? Why didn't Wen Wan fall in love with them but me? That's because I'm better than them. In addition to my good looks, I'm also erudite and cultured. Is this also a trap set by you? That's for sure. Isn't it a bit too unreasonable? How am I twisting words and forcing logic? If I hadn't married your grandmother and had your father, would there be a bastard like you? Isn't that a trap set by me?" Fang Yen was speechless. Listening to what he said, it seemed to make a lot of sense. Lu Wan came in from outside and asked eagerly, "Dad, how's the betrothal? Has the Yi family agreed to this marriage?" Old Master Feng Hui put away the smile on his face and took a big gulp of tea. He said slowly, pretending to be reserved, "Can they not agree? Mr. Yi was the matchmaker, and I was also the old man. My grandson was so outstanding that no village could find him. When they saw us bringing the betrothal gifts, the Yi family was overjoyed. The Yi family's old ancestor personally nodded and said that this matter was settled. Then this matter was settled." Lu Wan put her hands on her chest, tears overflowed from her eyes, and said, "That's good. That's good. My son is getting married." As he spoke, he sobbed uncontrollably. Fang Yan knew that she was thinking of her father. Her son was about to get married, but her father had already turned into dust. There was no one to talk about his sorrow and no one to share his joy with. This kind of feeling was really unpleasant. Old Master Feng Hui's face was also gloomy. He held the teacup but could not take another sip of tea. Was there anything more sorrowful and despairing than the death of one's child? Fang Yan walked over and held his mother in his arms. He said with a smile, "Mom, this is a happy thing. Rowan and I are going to get married. Shouldn't you be happy? If we were rejected by the Yi family today, all the things we sent would be thrown back by them. At that time, you should cry, right?" Puff. Lu Wan was amused by Fang Yan again. She gave him a reproachful look and said, "You silly boy, you are already a person who is going to get married. How can you still say this kind of nonsense? You and Rowan are in love. How can the Yi family not agree? Even if the Yi family does not agree, Rowan will agree. Your son is so excellent that I love him to death." Fang Yan laughed and teased himself. He didn't want his mother to be sad, not even a drop of tears. Every tear was a knife, stabbing into Fang Yan's heart. His heart ached faintly again, and the sense of guilt that had been quiet for a long time came again. It seemed to be turbulent, like a flood or a fierce beast. If he had arrived earlier that day, if he had been able to get rid of those good-for-nothings who blocked the way as soon as possible, his father would not have died. If his father was not dead, if Fang Yixing was still alive at this moment, when he learned that his son was going to get married, would he laugh unscrupulously, or would he pretend to be serious and sternly lecture his son to treat his wife well and be gentle when he got married in the future? He would definitely choose the latter, because the latter was the character he should have. He loved Fang Yan. He loved his son more than anyone else. However, he was stingy to show it, and he firmly hid that love in his flesh and blood. Old Master Feng Hui finally raised his head, looked at Lu Wan with blame and said, "Why are you crying on a happy day? Sir, forget it. The 8th of the 12th lunar month is an auspicious day, and there are many things that need to be taken care of. As an old man, my legs are not convenient. So many things need to be decided by you, the head of the family. You go and have a good talk with Rowan's mother first, find out what the Yi family is thinking, and ask Rowan what she wants. We should prepare for what we should prepare and buy what we should buy. There are many things that need you to do, and you can't lose your health." Alas, Lu Wan remembered that she had to start preparing for her son's marriage, and her suppressed emotions were suddenly turned over, as if she had been injected with a stimulant, and said, "I'll invite Fang Yan's aunt and sister-in-law to come over and have a good talk with them. I have no experience in this kind of thing, but our Fang family can't let Rowan down." Old Master Feng Hui nodded and said, "Have a good talk, and don't be stingy with money." Then he turned to stare at Fang Yan and said, "Boy, you have also made a lot of money these years, haven't you? Hurry up and contribute a little more to your mother. Our Fang family has been quiet for more than 20 years, and this time we will have a good time in Swallow Dock." Fang Yan nodded and said, "Mom, I will ask someone to send you a black card. Don't be thrifty." Lu Wan waved her hand and said, "Silly boy, no matter how poor our Fang family is, we still have enough money for our children's wedding. Don't worry about these things. Just do your own thing." Fang Yan nodded, looked at his mother with concern and said, "You have to take care of yourself. If you are too busy, ask my aunt to come back and help. Don't worry. I know how to arrange it. I have been idle these years, and I feel uncomfortable all over. How can I feel tired preparing for my son's wedding? Lu Wan left in a hurry, as it seemed that Feng Yan's wedding was tomorrow. Feng Yan looked at old Master Feng Hui and said, "Grandpa, do you want me to push you out for a walk?" "No need." Old Master Feng Hui waved his hand and said, "The marriage between you and Ruru has been decided, and this is a joyous occasion for our Feng family. Your father is no longer here, but there are still some things that need to be discussed with him. At least he will be informed. You go and accompany Ru. I will go and have a word with you." Watching his grandpa push the wheelchair away, Feng Yan's heart was extremely heavy. Ru took the initiative to look for Feng Yan and asked Feng Yan to take a walk beside Xianxia. Swallow Dock wasn't big, and what happened in the east of the village spread to the west of the village in less than an hour. The news of Yiru successfully climbing the Heavenly Dao and becoming the youngest Heavenly Dao expert in Wuxia, as well as Yiru's marriage with Feng Yan, had already spread throughout the village. The people they met on the way were very kind and enthusiastic when they saw them, and some would even stop to talk to them, asking about Yiru's experience in climbing the Heavenly Dao. Yiru didn't hide anything and told them everything. Even their attitude towards Feng Yan was a lot warmer, and some even called Feng Yan the new son-in-law. Feng Yan smiled shyly, and then thought to himself, "Shouldn't I call Yiru bride? Why does it sound like I'm marrying into her family?" Of course, Feng Yan didn't care about these details. To be able to marry Yiru, to be able to marry a woman who wholeheartedly loved him and was willing to protect him, Feng Yan's heart was filled with happiness. When they reached a slightly more remote place, no one came to disturb them, and the curved tail of Xianxia became their world. Yiru just walked with her head lowered, with no intention of speaking. Feng Yan wanted to say something several times, but he didn't want to break the moment of silence. Yiru was a very quiet person. When she didn't have to speak, she didn't like to use words to express herself. She would do what she wanted to do, and she wouldn't force herself to do what she didn't want to do. If she liked you, she would hold your hand, and if she hated you, she would chop off your hand. She had a clear distinction between love and hate. Feng Yan's heart was full of emotions. The girl who competed in the Feng family's martial arts arena for the first time was proud and stubborn, with 2 cute braids. When Feng Yan saw her, he thought it would be fun if he could pull her braids. It was really fun. Yiru knocked out 2 of his teeth and broke 3 of his fingers. At that time, Yiru was really fierce, and she wasn't gentle at all when she fought. Later, they fought once a year, and every time they met, they would quarrel. Feng Yan regarded her as his archenemy, and he told all his friends bad things about her. Even in his sleep, he dreamed that he was being beaten. However, that girl was going to be his wife soon. Life was really full of surprises. Feng Yan suddenly stopped, turned around to look at Yiru behind him, and said in a deep voice, "I've been thinking that there should be a more special proposal ceremony. I'll run around Yanjing City naked and then shout, 'Yiru will marry me.' Or I'll take off my clothes and jump into Xianxia River, shouting, 'Yiru will marry me.' Or we can go to the African prairie. We'll sit on a hot air balloon, and I'll kneel to you on one knee. If you don't agree, I'll cut the rope of the hot air balloon." "You'll die," Yiru said. "What? If the rope is cut, I'll be fine, but you'll fall to your death." Yiru looked at Feng Yan and said, Chapter 8:10. Feng Yan had once read a novel called King of Fire. In the story, the male protagonist, Tang Zhong, proposed to his 2 girlfriends on a hot air balloon. Look at how shameless and unprincipled he was. Feng Yan despised Tang Zhong's actions. He thought to himself that he would never do such a thing. Even if he wanted to do it, he wouldn't dare. Tang Zhong raised the ring in one hand and scissors in the other. He said that if they didn't agree to his proposal, he would cut off the balloon's rope. In the end, the 2 girls accepted the proposal with tears in their eyes. It turned out that women were also quite afraid of death. Not only were they afraid of death, but they were also afraid of heights. Feng Yan also wanted to learn from the senior idol who had many female friends. But Yi Ro's counterattack instantly woke him up. Yi Ro was a Heavenly Dao realm expert. If Feng Yan really cut off the balloon's rope in midair, The only one who would fall to his death would be Fang Yan himself. Yi Rou's chances of survival were much higher. From the looks of it, this method was a little romantic, and to some people, there was a huge loophole. Fang Yan smiled awkwardly and said, I can also run naked in Yanjing City, or jump into a stone river in front of everyone in the village. I just feel that it should be more romantic. I shouldn't use such a traditional method to directly go to your house to give the betrothal gift. Yi Rou looked up at Fang Yan and said, a man's romance isn't expressed in the moment of a proposal, but in life, it can make people feel happy and at ease at all times. If you want to talk about romance, when I failed to climb the heavenly Tao and was about to go berserk, you helped me move a mountain at the expense of your life. That was the most romantic proposal I know. Fang Yan reached out his hand to touch Yi Rou's face. Yi Rou was extremely shy, but she stood there and allowed him to molest her. Strange. Fang Yan muttered to himself and said, she's not wearing a mask. Bang. Fang Yan's body soared into the air and flew backward. He quickly got up from the ground and carefully avoided Yi Rou. He said, I just find it a little strange. Logically speaking, you shouldn't say something like that. It doesn't match your character. Come here, Yi Rou called to Fang Yan. What do you want? Fang Yan was testing her step by step. He didn't dare to get too close to Yi Wenru again. No, poison leg. I'm sure you're Yi Rou. You're not someone else wearing a mask. Yi Rou reached out and pulled Fang Yan into her arms. No, she pulled Fang Yan in front of her and threw herself into Fang Yan's arms. She wrapped her arms around Fang Yan's body and said softly, I'm very happy to be your wife. Fang Yan was stunned for a moment. Then he held Yi Rou's thin body tightly in his arms. He grinned and said, I'm even happier to be able to marry you. Even my grandfather thinks that you're like a flower stuck in cow dung. My uncles think so too, Yi Rou said. Fang Yan felt that he couldn't communicate with Yi Rou anymore. Since when did this woman become a cold-faced comedian and a comedian? She wasn't good at this before. In the luxurious European-style reception hall of the Qin family's old residence, Grandpa Qin was drinking tea on the sofa. He liked drinking tea. He had a relatively open side in his bones and could accept that the old residence was built in the style of a European castle. However, his taste in drinking tea hadn't changed for decades. In his mind, what could be better than tea in this world? Those coffee, those carbonated drinks? What's so good about them? Li Xinyan sat in front of him and tasted the coffee elegantly. She liked the bitterness and mellow taste of coffee. The smell in the air could awaken her taste buds. The other members of the Qin family stood on both sides. Everyone's eyes were focused on the woman. Li Junling, the woman who was about to become the daughter-in-law of the Qin family, had an affair with a man from the Jiang family, the old enemy of the Qin family. This was not a slap in the face of the Qin family, but a slap in the face of the Qin family. The Qin family was filled with righteous indignation and felt that they had been greatly insulted. However, the elders in the family didn't give any instructions, so they could only keep silent about this matter for the time being. They could endure and wait, but Li Junling's father, the famous piano master of Wuxia, Li Boyong, couldn't sit still. His blood pressure rose and he fainted on the spot. After knowing what had happened, he still forced himself to get up and immediately took his daughter to the Qin family to apologize. Li Boyong was an artist and was quite accomplished in piano. The Li family pushed him to be a spokesperson, using the admiration and attention of the rich and powerful to improve his family's status. In this way, he even had a relationship with the rich and powerful Qin family and successfully betrothed his daughter to the young talent of the Qin family, Qin Cheng. Li Boyong was thinking that when his daughter entered the Qin family, it would be the peak of his life. He didn't expect that this daydream would come true so quickly and in such a cruel way. His daughter had an affair with a member of the Jiang family. He understood the serious consequences of this matter. It was mercy for them to find someone to put him in a sack and throw him into the sea, but it was very likely that it would be a disaster that would wipe out the entire family. Whether it was the Qin family or the Jiang family, they were the most powerful existences in the world. In a situation where they didn't lack anything, their face was more important than anything else. However, his daughter's actions had offended both families at the same time. The wedding date was near, and it was said that it happened when she was choosing a wedding dress with the young master of the Qin family. How would the Qin family view such a future daughter-in-law? What about the Jiang family? The relationship between the Jiang family and the Qin family had never been harmonious. The two families viewed each other as enemies, but they also maintained mutual restraint. After this incident, would it break the balance between the two families? It was already winter, and the room was already warm. However, Li Boyong, who was wearing a suit and shirt, was sweating profusely, and his voice trembled when he spoke. "It's all my fault. It's all my fault. Li Boyong didn't teach his daughter well, and that's why she did such a shameful thing. Now that it's like this, there's nothing I can say to help. I admit my mistake. I'm willing to bear all the responsibility and consequences." Li Boyong bowed deeply to the Qin family patriarch and said, "Please be merciful, patriarch. Seeing that Boyong and the Qin family are old friends, please let my daughter live." The Qin family patriarch's expression was calm, as if he didn't care about what was happening in front of him. After hearing Li Boyong's words, he waved his hand and said, "What are you saying? Who said I won't let your daughter live?" "Thank you, patriarch." Li Boyong's eyes were moist, and he was moved to tears. Li Boyong turned to look at his daughter, who was standing behind him, and shouted, "Li Junling, kneel." Li Junling stood proudly. Although she was extremely nervous, she still gritted her teeth and said, "Why should I kneel? You did something wrong. What did I do wrong?" Li Junling retorted, "The Jiang family and I know each other and love each other. Who did I offend? I told you long ago that I have another lover, but did you listen to what I said? You wholeheartedly wanted to send me to a rich family, wholeheartedly wanted to make friends with rich people. I have no feelings for Qin Chong, so why should I marry such a man?" Slap. Li Boyong slapped Li Junling's face. His face was gloomy, and his body trembled non-stop. He shouted angrily, "You still don't know your mistake. You did such a shameful thing and you still don't know your mistake. I'll beat you to death. I don't have a disgraceful daughter like you." Li Junling's skin was white and tender. After being slapped by her father, a purplish-red handprint quickly appeared on her face. She didn't care, as if she didn't feel any pain. Big tears fell from her eyes and she said, "Beat me to death. If you don't beat me to death, I don't want to live. If I die, you will no longer be a dog in front of these people, and they will look up to you. What does it matter if I die?" Li Junling, since I was young, when did you listen to my thoughts? I liked the guitar, but you forced me to learn the piano. When I was a little playful, you were furious and said that I didn't want to improve. When I was a little slow in learning, you scolded me for being stupid. Piano goddess. Who knows how this goddess came to be? I spent all my time to get it, and I sacrificed all my hobbies to get it. Genius? Can this kind of person be considered a genius? I know that the matter between me and General Xing is very difficult for you and the whole family. You are afraid, you are worried that you will be implicated. If that's the case, I will die here, in front of the Qin family to atone for my sins. In this way, they won't hurt you anymore, right? After saying that, Li Junling took out a short dagger from her pocket and slashed it toward her own neck. Bang! A figure flashed. An old nanny who was in charge of pouring water for old Master Qin suddenly appeared and grabbed the dagger from Li Junling's hand with a small move. Li Xinyan gently stirred the coffee in his cup, looked at Li Junling and said, "Miss, if you want to die, we won't stop you. Everyone has the right to choose their own life." After a pause, he then said, "But, can you die a little further away? The carpet in the hall has just been cleaned. If it gets dirty, won't we have to trouble those hard-working service staff?" You are so evil." Li Junling's face was pale, and she stared fiercely at Li Xinyan. "Evil?" Li Xinyan took a sip of the coffee in his cup and said with a smile, "Miss, if I was really evil, do you think you would still have the chance to stand in front of me and accuse me of being evil?" Chapter 8:11. Every single word that Li Xinyan said was not a threat. With her current status, there was no need for her to threaten others. If she said she would kill you, then she would kill you. If she said she wanted you to disappear, then you would never be able to show your face again. Just as she said, if she was really vicious, would Li Junling and her father, Li Boyong, still have the chance to stand in the Qin family's hall today? Would they still have the chance to be judged by the Qin family, be it punishment or forgiveness? Would they still have the chance? With just a word of command, or even a reminder with a glance, the father and daughter would encounter a serious car accident or some other accident. In any case, their lives would end here, and they would never have the chance to appear in front of the public again. Or perhaps the Qin family did not need to do anything. There were countless people outside who wanted to please them. Some smart people who didn't mind doing the dirty work would do it cleanly. If it wasn't for a casual greeting at a private gathering, you wouldn't even know who sent the father and daughter away. This was the power of money, the power of power. When anything reached an extreme, the energy that it could erupt with would be astonishing and shocking. Some people were overly arrogant, while others could control this power very well. Slap, Li Boyong slapped his daughter again. Li Junling, who was unprepared, was knocked to the ground by his father. Li Boyong looked down at Li Junling and shouted angrily, "Kneel and apologize to the madam, kneel and apologize?" Li Junling covered her face and sneered. "What did I do wrong? Do I need to apologize to them? I just fell in love with a man. What's wrong with that? What does this have to do with them? You are Qin Chang's fiancé. I am not Qin Chang's fiancé. You are." Li Junling looked at her father and laughed, saying, "You are Qin Chang's fiancé. I have never liked him, and I have never wanted to marry him. You think about it day and night. 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 You dash." Li Boyong pointed at his daughter with a trembling finger, unable to say a complete sentence. Li Junling got up from the ground and tidied up his clothes. He looked at Li Xinyan stubbornly and said, "I'm not even afraid of death. How can I apologize to you people? Yes, perhaps this kind of thing has long been a common occurrence for you, the weak apologizing to the strong, regardless of whether the strong is standing on the side of reason. But today, I'm going to disappoint you. What does your apology mean to me?" Li Xinyan looked at Li Junling and asked, "Or, what does it mean to the Qin family?" "I don't care, and the Qin family doesn't care," Li Xinyan said lightly. "If you were just an ordinary woman, or if you were still the goddess of piano you are now, you would have nothing to do with the Qin family. Even if you had an affair or died for love, the Qin family wouldn't even look at you. However, you're engaged to a man from the Qin family. One of your feet has already stepped into the Qin family's door. Whether it was intentional or not, at the engagement ceremony, you nodded and agreed. After the engagement ceremony, you did such a thing, which indeed made the Qin family lose face. For the time being, you have to bear the criticism of some boring people. But that's all there is to it. Even if something like this happened, the Qin family is still the Qin family. When others talk about it, the Qin family's reputation will be hurt. When you are forgotten by others, when Qin Chang has a new fiancé, can people still remember who you are? But, after this kind of thing, girl, are you still you?" Li Xinyan looked at Li Junling sympathetically and said, "As a woman, I can understand how you feel. But your choice is really too stupid. Until now, you still don't know what will happen to you after this matter is exposed. You also don't understand how lucky you are to be able to stand in the hall of the Qin family right now." Li Boyong's forehead was dripping with sweat, but he didn't bother to wipe it off. He kept bowing and apologizing, saying, "Madam, please don't lower yourself to her level. She is just a child who doesn't know how to appreciate favors. If you want to scold her, just direct it at me. I am her father, and I should bear the responsibility for her." Li Xinyan sneered and said, All right, Li Boyong, you father and daughter don't put on this sad drama in front of me. I have no interest in watching a drama." Yes, Li Boyong nodded repeatedly and said, "We are not acting. We are not acting, we are here to apologize. We are wrong, very wrong. no matter if we are beaten or scolded, even if Madam asks me to jump into the valley, I will not frown." Li Xinyan raised his head and looked at Li Boyong, saying, "You are a good father, but you spoil your daughter too much, go back." "Madam?" Li Boyong looked at Li Xinyan with a frightened expression. He knelt on the ground and cried bitterly, saying, "Madam, I beg you, please let us go this time. I am willing to atone for this matter. I am willing to die for Qin Chong, for young Master Qin. I only ask that you let go of Jun Ling, let go of the Li family." Li Junling's face was as white as paper. His father's reaction had already explained everything. The Qin family wanted to kill them to avenge their humiliation? These rich and powerful nobles, their hearts were really vicious. "Did you misunderstand something?" Li Xinyan's eyebrows twitched. He glanced at Li Boyong with some dissatisfaction and said, "Tears can be exchanged for forgiveness, but it can also be exchanged for double the hatred of others. Don't worry, the Qin family will not retaliate against you. From now on, the two families will no longer have any relationship. Do you understand what I mean?" "I understand." Li Boyong nodded repeatedly. The two families would no longer have any relationship. This meant that Li Xinyan had publicly annulled the marriage between Qin Chang and his daughter. His daughter had done such a thing. This was the proper response from the Qin family. In addition, the majority of the Li family's businesses were connected to the Qin family. If the Qin family severed ties with the Li family, those businesses would most likely be lost. Not only that, but they would also be attacked by those who heard the news. At that time, without the support of the Qin family, how could the Li family retaliate? They could only watch as the Li family's businesses were divided by those vicious wolves. Unless the Jiang family is willing to protect them, Li Boyong thought in a corner of his heart. Li Xinyan waved his hand and said, "Let's go back." Li Boyong crawled up from the ground and bowed to Li Xinyan, to the silent old Master Qin, and to everyone in the Qin family. Then, he pulled Li Junling's hand and walked outside. "We're letting them go just like that? That woman did such a thing. That's right, let's get someone to break her legs. Let's see how she can steal men in the future." She didn't hit or scold them. She didn't even scold them. Will outsiders laugh at the Qin family for being weak and easy to bully? No matter what, Li Xinyan was the current head of the Qin family. When she was handling family matters, outsiders were not allowed to interrupt or criticize her. Especially when outsiders were present, the Qin family had to give the impression that they were united and harmonious. However, after outsiders left, they had the right to speak freely and express their dissatisfaction. Of course, Li Xinyan also had the right to ignore them. Li Xinyan looked at old Master Qin, who was leisurely drinking tea, and said with a smile, "This tea was plucked from the few tea trees behind Etienne's courtyard. Because Etienne watched them grow up, she treasured them very much. When she plucked the tea leaves, she didn't allow anyone to help her. She plucked the leaves by herself, and each leaf felt like she was cutting off a piece of flesh from her body. After several days of hard work, she only got 2 taels of tea leaves after frying them. She was usually very stingy and didn't usually let people drink. Only when I went to visit her would she ask someone to bring me a cup of tea. She's very close to Grandpa, so she probably gave you more than half of the 2 taels of tea leaves, right?" Old Master Qin laughed loudly and said proudly, "That granddaughter of mine is very proud." Ordinary people can't even drink a cup of tea from her, not to mention the tea leaves she plucked herself. But Etienne is very close to me, so after she finished frying her tea leaves, she secretly gave me a small pot. She even told me not to let you find out. How did you see through it at a glance?" Li Xinyan put down the coffee cup in his hand and said bitterly, "The tea in your hands are all rare and good. How can you find tea leaves with such big leaves after brewing?" After receiving this flattery, old Master Qin felt refreshed and his smile became even more radiant. He said, "If you like it, I can also give you some. However, I'll tell you something private. You can't let that girl Etienne know about it. Otherwise, I won't be able to drink her treasured tea leaves anymore. The tea leaves she gave me really don't taste that good. It's far worse than the tea leaves I collected. But since my granddaughter has already given me the tea leaves, if I don't drink it, she'll feel hurt. That's why I brewed a cup of tea every now and then, thinking that I can finish it as soon as possible. The Qin family members in the living room looked at each other. They were seriously questioning whether this was a good way to handle things. Why did you ignore us and talk about Qin Etienne's tea leaves? Qin Chang pushed open the living room door, walked in, and knelt down in front of Li Xinyan. I want revenge, Qin Chang said in a hoarse voice. Chapter 8:12. People were divided into yin and yang, and everything had two sides. Because of the two talented women in the Qin family, the two generations of men in the Qin family were collectively weak and couldn't stand out. Because of the arrival of Li Xinyan, the daughter-in-law of the previous generation, the power of the Qin family fell, and they became a plaything in the hands of a woman. In this generation, there was another Qin Etienne, who was smart and talented, and had made a lot of achievements. Some people said that his mother was manipulating behind the scenes in order to make her daughter the prodigy of the Qin family so that she could seize power. Some people also said that the son should be like Jiang Junling and the adopted daughter should be like Qin Etienne, which was also the advertising slogan that the Qin family and the Jiang family paid people to hype so that they could outshine the other rich and powerful families. When Qin Etienne grew up, some of the projects she independently invested in all showed dazzling results. It was said that she had already shown outstanding business talent when she was still a student. With her as the middleman, the Qin family and Lu Chaoge created the world-famous Chaoyan technology. When Jiang Junling died, Qin Etienne also encountered some criticism. Some people said with the mentality of watching a good show, "Look, we have already proved that one is a fake, let's see how long the other one can last." However, no matter what people said, Qin Etienne was still Qin Etienne, still the Qin Etienne that everyone respected and looked up to. Some people said that it was a tragedy to live in the same generation as Qin Etienne. For the young generation of the Qin family, it was a complete tragedy to live in the same family as Qin Etienne. Compared with a genius like Qin Etienne, Qin Chang's ability was not obvious, and his talent in all aspects was not outstanding enough. But compared with the other young generation of the Qin family, or compared with the young people outside, he was already superior. In the past, Qin Chang was gentle and elegant, liked to protect the young generation of the family to win people's hearts, and liked to play tricks to get some small advantages. Every time Qin Chang appeared, he was beautiful. Even in Beijing, where there were crouching tigers and hidden dragons, he was considered a somewhat famous figure. Now, Qin Chang was like a different person. His hair was messy, his clothes were untidy, his eyes were sunken, and there was a pile of eye wax waiting to fall off naturally at the corner of his eyes. His face was pale, and he looked like a vampire who had not been exposed to sunlight for a long time. In the past, only young Master Qin Chang made others fall out of love. He had never experienced such an embarrassing betrayal. His fiancée had been having an affair with another man before they got married. Her twisting and moaning made countless people talk about it. These were all things he had never experienced before. He and Li Junling had never had any decent skin contact. Can you imagine that? Young masters like them were also playing innocent with others? Qin Chang really fell in love with Li Junling. He had always regarded Li Junling as his future wife. In any case, she was going to be his woman very soon, so why should he be so anxious to show that he didn't have the demeanor of a man? In the end, when he was picking out a wedding dress for his future wife, he saw such an ungentlemanly video. After the incident, Qin Chang locked himself in his room and didn't go out. Because he smoked too much, even his throat was swollen and hoarse. Every word he spoke seemed to be rubbing his throat until it bled. I want revenge. Qin Chang raised his head and looked at Li Xinyan. His yellowish eyes were bloodshot. Jiang Xing has gone too far. Li Xinyan sighed softly. He walked over and wanted to pull Qin Chang up from the ground. Qin Chang knelt on the ground and refused to get up. He looked up at Li Xinyan and said, I don't hate Li Junling. This woman has nothing to do with me anymore. But Jiangxing's family has gone too far. I want revenge. I must get revenge. Since Qin Chang wasn't willing to get up, Li Xinyan had no reason to keep pulling him. She sat back on the sofa and looked at Qin Chang and said, "How do you want revenge?" "I want Jiang Junling to die. I want the Jiang family to be destroyed. I want them to go to the 18th level of hell," Qin Chang said while gritting his teeth. No matter what kind of family he came from, no matter what kind of temperament he had, his fiancée having an affair with another man was something that no one could tolerate. Qin Chang was usually very prideful. He always boasted that he was the only person in the Qin family other than Qin Yitin. He had his own circle of friends. Everyone who saw him would respectfully call him young Master Qin. However, everything was ruined. The moment that video was released, or the moment that his fiancée knelt under that man's body, all of his dignity and pride were destroyed. I know how childish my actions were. I also know how stupid it was for me to collude with some brothers in the family to oust you. I know that you hate me. You don't even care about me. However, I want to ask you one thing. I want you to declare war on the Jiang family. That's impossible. Li Xinyan refused without hesitation. It was as if there was no room for negotiation. Why? Qin Chang said with a pained expression. Don't you hate the Jiang family? Doesn't Qin Yitin hate the Jiang family? Don't you want to declare war on the Jiang family for how they treated Fang Yan? Can you turn a blind eye and pretend nothing happened when the Jiang family humiliated me like that? Does the Qin family still want face? Do we still have dignity? Li Xinyan looked at Qin Chang with a serious expression. The Qin family belongs to everyone in the Qin family. It doesn't belong to just one person. Every decision of the Qin family must be in line with the interests of the entire Qin family. Yition doesn't like the Jiang family. I don't like the Jiang family either. However, we can't declare war on the Jiang family just because we hate them. We'll push the Qin family to the edge of danger. I definitely won't agree to that. After a pause, Li Xinyan continued. However, General Xing of the Jiang family clearly knows that Li Junling and Qin Chang are engaged. That's too much. If the Qin family doesn't do anything, the outside world will think that the Qin family is weak and easy to bully. I declare that from now on, we will cut off all business with the Jiang family. In some important areas or core areas of the Jiang family, we can have a greater say. Qin Chang froze for a while. Then she laid on the ground and cried. She kept saying to Li Xinyan, "Thank you. Thank you." Old Master Qin looked at his daughter-in-law with a smile. He leisurely drank the tea that his granddaughter gave him. The Qin family looked at each other. Was the Qin family going to declare war on the Jiang family? Stupid. Stupid beyond belief. Li Boyong wiped the sweat off his forehead as he lectured his daughter, who was sitting next to him with an ashen face. By doing such a thing, you have trampled on the Qin family's dignity. How could the Qin family forgive you? As he spoke, they were sitting in a Mercedes-Benz limousine on their way home. The driver was a Liang, Li Boyong's driver for many years. What does a family like them care about the most? What they care about the most is loyalty and face. If you make them lose face, what won't they do? You dare to give them face? You dare to say that they are vicious? Junling, you haven't seen a truly vicious thing. You usually seem to be a clever man, but this time how could you be so wrong? Li Junling looked out of the window in a daze. It was as if he didn't hear what his father said. Thank God. They finally let us go for the time being. Li Xinyan is very powerful. But she's also very magnanimous. She said she won't trouble us. That means she won't trouble us. I'm afraid that Qin Chang and other members of the Qin family won't be able to swallow it. Go abroad. Go abroad immediately. Didn't the Borna Orchestra in Vienna invite you to perform there? You should take this opportunity to go abroad. Now the limelight is at its peak. If you stay in Beijing, you won't even have a chance to go out. Li Junling was finally moved. He turned to look at his father and said, Juanxing. My dear lady, why are you still thinking about him? Li Boyong almost knelt down to his daughter. How could Juanxing jump out to support you after such a thing happened? Unless they completely fall out with the Qin family. Otherwise, he won't protect you. I'm afraid he can't even protect himself now. Daughter, don't put your hope on that man. If he really did it for you, he shouldn't have treated you like that. Li Junling reached out and held his father's hand. His eyes were filled with tears as he said, I don't blame him. I really like him. Everything is voluntary. Dad, this is the first time I've fallen in love with a man since I was young. Can you understand how I feel? Li Boyong wiped his daughter's tears. I understand. I can understand. But safety comes first. Go out quickly. Let your mother go with you. I'm worried about you going out like this. I'll stay in Beijing and think of a way. When the situation calms down, you can come back. Or never come back. Dad. Daughter, I'll teach you something. I shouldn't say it, but I think it's necessary for you to know. What? Never trust a man. Li Boyong said with a serious face. The what? Li Junling didn't understand. You're a man too. Li Boyong smiled bitterly. Yes, I'm a man too. That's why I can say that. Click. The backseat door was suddenly locked. Liang, what are you doing? Li Boyong was greatly alarmed and shouted. Master, Mississippi don't blame me. Liang opened the door and jumped out. The Mercedes-Benz deviated from the mountain road. It broke through the railing and crashed into the steep mountain stream. Li Junling grabbed the seat in front of her and screamed. Liang, you traitor! Li Boyong was also frightened by this scene and shouted in a hoarse voice. Crash, crash. The Mercedes-Benz crashed into the stone wall again and again. It was like a black cannonball crashing into the endless purgatory. You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.